Rain hammered Chicago's skyline the night Evelyn Vale discovered her mother had taken out a $2 million life insurance policy on her, 3 days before handing her over to the city's most dangerous mafia boss like damaged merchandise. But Luca Moretti didn't break her. He gave her something far more dangerous: the truth about power, the weapons to fight back, and a front row seat to her mother's destruction at the Black Orchid Gala in front of 500 witnesses. This is the story of a girl who survived being sold, a monster who chose mercy, and revenge served cold beneath crystal chandeliers. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The penthouse smelled like expensive leather and old violence. Evelyn Vale stood in the center of Luca Moretti's study, with her wrists still burning from where her mother's bodyguard had gripped them in the car. Rain hammered against floor-to-ceiling windows that stretched across the 43rd floor, turning Chicago into a blur of neon and thunder. Her oversized gray sweater hung off one shoulder, exposing a bruise the color of spoiled plums. She kept her eyes on the marble floor because looking up meant acknowledging the man sitting behind the desk, the tattooed king of Chicago's underworld, who now owned her like furniture. Celeste Vale stood near the door in a cream Chanel suit and pearls, checking her phone like she was waiting for a lunch reservation instead of abandoning her only daughter. "She's 23, Celeste said without looking up. "Healthy, literate. She can cook if you need that sort of thing." Evelyn's stomach twisted. Her mother was listing her qualities like she was dropping off a rescue dog. Luca Moretti didn't respond immediately. He sat perfectly still behind a desk made of black walnut, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. Tattoos crawled up both forearms, intricate patterns that disappeared beneath the rolled sleeves of his white dress shirt. His face was all sharp angles and controlled violence, the kind of handsome that came with a body count. Dark eyes studied Evelyn with an intensity that made her skin prickle. He looked at her the way a jeweler examined a stone: clinical, thorough, unsettling. "Your debt was $800,000, Luca said quietly. His voice was smoke and gravel. "You're offering me a person." Celeste waved one manicured hand dismissively. "She's worth more than money. Young, obedient. She won't cause problems." Evelyn wanted to scream, wanted to run, wanted to tell her mother that she'd rather die than be handed over like a used car. But years of survival had taught her that resistance only made things worse. So she stood there, trembling inside her skin, waiting for whatever fresh nightmare was about to unfold. Luca's gaze never left Evelyn's face. "Look at me." It wasn't a request. Evelyn forced her eyes up, met his stare, felt something cold crawl down her spine. He didn't blink, didn't smile, just watched her with the patience of a predator that already knew how the hunt would end. "Turn around," he said. Humiliation burned through her chest, but she obeyed, turned slowly, let him examine her like livestock. "Stop." She froze. "The bruises on your wrists," Luca said. "Where did those come from?" Evelyn's breath caught. Nobody ever asked about the bruises. They were part of the scenery, expected, ignored, irrelevant. Celeste laughed. It was light and dismissive, the sound she used at charity galas when someone mentioned anything unpleasant. "She bruises easily," Celeste said. "Always has." "Clumsy girl." Luca stood. The movement was fluid and deliberate, and suddenly the room felt smaller. He crossed the space between them in 3 strides, and Evelyn's survival instinct screamed at her to run. But there was nowhere to go. No escape, no safety. He stopped inches away, close enough that she could smell expensive cologne mixed with something darker, gunpowder maybe. Leather. Violence. "Look at me again?" She did. His hand moved, not toward her, but toward the lamp on the side table. He angled it so the light hit her face directly. Then he studied the bruise on her cheekbone, the split lip that had scabbed over 3 days ago, the faint discoloration near her left eye. When he finally spoke, his voice was dangerously quiet. "Did your mother do this to you?" The question hung in the air like a loaded gun. Evelyn's throat closed. She wanted to lie, wanted to protect herself from whatever consequences honesty would bring, but something in Luca's eyes told her that lying would be worse. "Yes," she whispered. The silence that followed was suffocating. Luca turned toward Celeste with the kind of calm that preceded bloodshed. "Get out." Celeste blinked. "Excuse me?" "Your debt is cleared," Luca said. Each word was carved from ice. "You're no longer welcome in my city. If I see you again, I'll forget I have rules about killing women." Color drained from Celeste's face. "You can't be serious. We had an agreement." "The agreement was that you owed me money," Luca interrupted. "You just tried to pay me with a human being you've been beating. That violates terms I didn't know I needed to specify." He moved toward her, and Celeste actually stepped back. "You have 10 seconds to leave before I change my mind about letting you walk out of here breathing." Celeste's mouth opened, closed. Her carefully constructed mask of control cracked, revealing something ugly underneath, rage mixed with genuine fear. She looked at Evelyn one last time. No affection, no regret, just cold calculation. "You'll regret this," Celeste said to Luca. Then she turned and walked out, heels clicking against marble like gunshots. The door closed. Evelyn stood frozen, her mind trying to process what had just happened. Her mother was gone. The debt was cleared, and she was still here, alone with Chicago's most feared criminal. This was worse. This had to be worse. Luca returned to his desk, poured 2 fingers of whiskey into a crystal glass, and drank it in one swallow. Then he looked at her again. "Sit down before you fall down," he said. Evelyn's legs were shaking so badly she didn't argue. She sank into the leather chair across from his desk and tried to remember how to breathe. "What's your name?" Luca asked. "Evelyn." Her voice came out broken. "Evelyn Vale. How long has she been hitting you?" The question was so direct it felt like a punch. Evelyn's hands twisted in her lap. "I don't—" "How long, Evelyn?" "Since I was 12. Luca's jaw tightened. He poured another whiskey but didn't drink it, just stared at the glass like it contained answers he didn't want to hear. "Do you have anywhere else to go?" he asked. She shook her head. "Family? Friends?" Another headshake. Luca exhaled slowly, pinched the bridge of his nose, and muttered something in Italian that sounded like a curse. Then he stood again and walked to the windows overlooking the city. "Here's what's going to happen," he said without turning around. "You're going to stay here tonight. Tomorrow, we'll figure out what happens next. But right now, you look like you haven't slept in a week. And I'm not making decisions about someone's life when they can barely stand." Evelyn stared at his back. "I don't understand." "What don't you understand?" "Why you're being kind." Luca turned. The look on his face was complicated, something between anger and exhaustion. "I'm not kind," he said flatly. "I run weapons, launder money, and solve problems with violence, but I don't hurt people who can't fight back. And I sure as hell don't profit off someone's trauma." He crossed his arms. "Your mother tried to sell you to cover her gambling debts. That makes her worse than anyone I've ever put in the ground." Evelyn's chest tightened. Nobody had ever called what her mother did wrong before. They'd ignored it, enabled it, looked the other way while Celeste played the role of Chicago's beloved philanthropist. "What do you want from me?" Evelyn asked quietly. "Nothing." "People don't do things for nothing." Luca's expression darkened. "You've been around the wrong people." He pressed a button on his desk phone. A moment later, the door opened and a woman in her 50s entered. Elegant, professional, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "This is Evelyn," Luca said. "She's staying here tonight. Set her up in the guest suite on the east wing. Make sure she has food, clean clothes, whatever she needs." The woman, whose name Evelyn would later learn was Sophia, nodded. "Of course." Luca looked at Evelyn. "Sophia manages this building. You need anything, you ask her. Understood?" Evelyn nodded because speaking felt impossible. Sophia gestured toward the door. "This way, dear." Evelyn stood on shaking legs and followed her out of the study. The hallway was all dark hardwood and recessed lighting, expensive and cold. They walked in silence past abstract paintings and locked doors until Sophia stopped at a room near the end of the hall. "This is yours for tonight," Sophia said, opening the door. The guest suite was bigger than Evelyn's entire bedroom at her mother's house. A king-sized bed dominated the space, covered in soft gray linens. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. A door on the left led to a bathroom with marble countertops and a rainfall shower. "There are clothes in the closet," Sophia said. "They might be a bit large, but they're clean. I'll have food sent up in 20 minutes. Do you have any allergies?" Evelyn shook her head mutely. Sophia's expression softened slightly. You're safe here. Mr. Moretti doesn't make promises he doesn't keep. Then she left, closing the door quietly behind her. Evelyn stood in the center of the room, heart pounding, mind racing. She didn't know what game Luca was playing, but there had to be a catch. There was always a catch. She walked to the windows and pressed her forehead against the cold glass. Chicago sprawled below her. Millions of lights, millions of lives, millions of people who had no idea that tonight her entire world had fractured into something unrecognizable. Her mother was gone. The debt was cleared. And Luca Moretti, the man the city called a monster, had looked at her bruises and called them a crime. Evelyn's hands were still shaking when she finally pulled away from the window and collapsed onto the bed. Exhaustion crashed over her like a wave, pulling her under before she could fight it. For the first time in 11 years, Evelyn Vale fell asleep without listening for footsteps in the hallway. She woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of coffee. For a few disoriented seconds, Evelyn couldn't remember where she was. Then memory returned in a cold rush. Her mother's dismissal, Luca's questions, the impossible kindness that still felt like a trap. She sat up slowly. Someone had left a tray on the bedside table, scrambled eggs, toast, fresh fruit, and a French press full of dark coffee. A note sat beside the plate in elegant handwriting. Eat. Then meet me in the study. L. Evelyn ate mechanically, her stomach too tight to enjoy the food, but her survival instincts too strong to refuse fuel. The clothes Sophia mentioned were in the closet, designer labels in neutral tones, most of them too big, but wearable. She chose black jeans and a soft cream sweater, then braided her hair to hide how badly her hands were shaking. The study door was open when she arrived. Luca sat behind his desk in a charcoal suit, reading something on his laptop. He looked up when she entered, gestured to the chair across from him. "Sleep okay?" he asked. "Yes." It wasn't a lie. She'd slept better than she had in years. Luca closed the laptop. "We need to talk about what happens next." Here it comes, Evelyn thought, the real price. "I made some calls this morning," Luca continued. "Your mother's debts are more extensive than I thought. She owes money to half the casinos on the East Coast, 3 loan sharks, and at least 2 people who solve problems the way I do." He leaned back in his chair. "She's also being investigated by the IRS for tax fraud and the state attorney's office for embezzlement from her charity foundation." Evelyn's stomach dropped. "I didn't know." "Why would you? She kept you locked in that house like a dirty secret." Luca's expression was unreadable. "The point is, Celeste Vale is circling the drain. It's only a matter of time before everything collapses." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you need to understand that going back to her isn't an option," Luca said bluntly. "Even if you wanted to, which I'm guessing you don't, she's not safe. The people she owes money to don't have my restraint." Evelyn's chest tightened. "So what am I supposed to do?" Luca studied her for a long moment. "You have options. I can set you up with a job, an apartment across town, give you enough money to start over somewhere else, or—" He paused. "You can stay here." "Why would you let me stay?" "Because you don't have anywhere else to go," Luca said. "And because I think you're smarter than you've been allowed to be. Your mother spent years convincing you that you're worthless. I'm curious to see who you actually are when someone's not beating that idea into your head every day." Evelyn didn't know how to respond to that. Kindness without conditions felt like a language she didn't speak. "What would I do here?" she asked carefully. "Whatever you want," Luca said. "Learn, heal, figure out who you are outside of survival mode." He leaned forward. "I'm not asking you to work for me. I'm not asking for anything. But if you stay, you'll see things, learn things, and eventually you'll have to decide what kind of person you want to be." "What kind of things?" Luca's smile was dark. "The truth about how this city actually works." Evelyn's pulse quickened. "And if I stay, there's no catch? No debt?" "No catch," Luca confirmed. "You want to leave tomorrow, next week, next month. You leave. No questions asked." She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that someone could offer help without strings attached. But years of experience had taught her that trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. "I'll stay," she said quietly. "For now." Luca nodded. "Fair enough." He stood and walked to the bookshelf lining the far wall, pulled out a thick leather-bound journal, and set it on the desk in front of her. This city is built on secrets, he said. Politicians, businessmen, socialites, they all pretend to be legitimate while doing the same things I do, just with better PR. He tapped the journal. This contains names, dates, transactions. Proof that Chicago's elite are just as dirty as the criminals they claim to despise. Evelyn stared at the journal. Why are you showing me this? Because your mother is one of them, Luca said. Celeste Vale plays the philanthropist, but her charity foundation is a money laundering operation. She's been funneling donations into offshore accounts for years while pretending to help abuse victims. His jaw tightened. The irony isn't lost on me. Something cold settled in Evelyn's chest. How long have you known? 6 months, Luca admitted. I was building a case to expose her when she showed up here trying to sell you. He paused. That changed things. How? Because I realized she's worse than I thought, Luca said quietly, and because you deserve to know exactly who your mother is. Evelyn's hands trembled as she opened the journal. Page after page of evidence, bank statements, emails, photographs of Celeste meeting with known criminals in expensive restaurants, every charitable donation tracked to a shell corporation, every public appearance calculated to build a reputation that hid rot underneath. She's a monster, Evelyn whispered. Yes, Luca agreed. But she's a monster wearing a crown, and that makes her dangerous. Evelyn closed the journal, her mind reeling. What are you going to do with this? That depends, Luca said. What do you want me to do with it? The question caught her off guard. You're asking me? She's your mother, Luca said. Whatever happens next should be your choice. Evelyn looked down at the journal, at the evidence of years of lies, manipulation, and cruelty hidden behind designer suits and charity galas. Her mother had beaten her, isolated her, convinced her she was worthless. And now Evelyn knew it had all been deliberate, strategic, a way to keep her controllable. I don't know, Evelyn admitted. I don't know what I want. Then take your time, Luca said. Figure it out. And when you're ready, we'll talk. He walked toward the door, then paused and looked back at her. One more thing, he said. There's a lawyer named Marcus Chen. He's been asking questions about you. Evelyn's blood ran cold. What kind of questions? The kind that suggest your mother did something recently that involves your name, Luca said carefully. I'm looking into it, but I wanted you to know. Then he left, closing the door behind him. Evelyn sat alone in the study, staring at the journal in front of her. Her mother's entire empire laid bare in leather and ink. Proof that Celeste Vale wasn't just a bad mother, she was a criminal, a fraud, a predator. And somewhere out there, a lawyer was asking questions about Evelyn. She didn't know what that meant yet, but deep in her gut, she knew it was bad. 3 days passed in a strange, suspended reality. Evelyn moved through Luca's penthouse like a ghost, learning to be solid again. Sophia brought her meals. Luca left her alone, but made it clear she was free to explore. The building had a library, a gym, even a rooftop garden that overlooked the city. She spent hours in the library reading everything she could find about Chicago's power structures. The families that controlled construction contracts, the politicians owned by real estate developers, the charity foundations that existed only on paper. Luca was right. The city was built on secrets, and her mother was drowning in them. On the 4th morning, Luca knocked on her door at 7 a.m. Get dressed, he said when she answered. We're going somewhere. 20 minutes later, they were in the back of a black SUV with tinted windows, driving through Chicago's South Side. Luca sat across from her in a dark suit, watching the streets pass with the focus of someone who saw threats everywhere. Where are we going? Evelyn asked. You'll see. The SUV stopped in front of a nondescript brick building with barred windows. Luca got out, gestured for her to follow. Inside, the space had been converted into something between a community center and a fortress. Reinforced doors, security cameras, but also warm lighting and comfortable furniture. A woman in her 30s met them in the lobby. She had kind eyes and scars on her hands. This is Maria, Luca said. She runs this place. Safe house, Maria clarified, shaking Evelyn's hand. For women leaving violent situations. We give them shelter, legal support, job training, whatever they need to start over. Evelyn's throat tightened. My mother runs a charity that's supposed to do this. I know, Maria said gently. The Vale Foundation was one of our biggest donors 5 years ago. Then the money stopped coming. We found out later that Celeste was using our name to collect donations she never passed along. Rage flickered through Evelyn's chest, hot and unfamiliar. Luca funds us now, Maria continued, anonymously. The work we do here saves lives. She led them through the building, introducing Evelyn to women who'd escaped trafficking rings, abusive marriages, dangerous families. Each story was different, but the pattern was the same. Violence hidden behind closed doors, society looking away, survival measured in stolen moments and desperate choices. By the time they left, Evelyn felt like she'd been turned inside out. In the SUV, she finally asked the question burning in her chest. Why did you bring me here? Luca looked at her. Because I wanted you to see what your mother pretends to care about. And because I wanted you to understand that violence doesn't always look like fists and bruises. Sometimes it looks like neglect, abandonment, stolen resources. He paused. Your mother has been hurting people for years. You're just the one she hurt most directly. Evelyn's hands clenched in her lap. I want her to pay. She will, Luca promised. But you need to decide how. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the women at the safe house, the ones who'd escaped, the ones still trapped, the resources that could have saved them, stolen by Celeste Vale and funneled into offshore accounts while she smiled for cameras at charity galas. Evelyn got out of bed, pulled on a robe, and walked to Luca's study. The door was cracked open, light spilling into the hallway. She knocked softly. Come in. Luca sat at his desk with a glass of whiskey and an open file. He looked up when she entered, gestured to the chair across from him. Couldn't sleep? He asked. Evelyn shook her head. You said there was a lawyer asking questions about me. Luca's expression shifted, something dark moving behind his eyes. Marcus Chen, he's been trying to get information about your whereabouts. Says he needs to discuss an urgent legal matter. What kind of legal matter? Luca slid a folder across the desk. Evelyn opened it. Inside was a life insurance policy. Beneficiary, Celeste Vale. Insured, Evelyn Vale. Payout, $2 million. Policy date, 3 days before Celeste delivered her to Luca's penthouse. The world stopped. Evelyn read the document 3 times, her brain refusing to process what her eyes were seeing. She took out a life insurance policy on me, she whispered. 3 days before she brought you here, Luca confirmed. His voice was ice. She wasn't trying to pay off her debts with you. She was setting up your murder. The folder slipped from Evelyn's hands. Her mother hadn't abandoned her. She'd arranged her death. The life insurance policy sat on Luca's desk like a death sentence written in legal language. Evelyn stared at it until the words blurred together, her brain trying to reject what her eyes kept confirming. $2 million. Her name. Her mother's signature. A policy dated 3 days before Celeste had walked her into this penthouse and offered her like collateral. She was going to kill me, Evelyn whispered. Luca didn't respond immediately. He sat perfectly still across from her, watching her face with the careful attention of someone who'd seen shock turn people inside out. His whiskey sat untouched on the desk between them. Not personally, Luca said finally. His voice was flat, clinical. She was going to let me do it, or let my world do it for her. He tapped the policy with one finger. She delivers you to Chicago's most dangerous criminal. You disappear. Tragic accident, terrible tragedy, and Celeste Vale walks away $2 million richer while playing the grieving mother for the cameras. Evelyn's stomach lurched. She pressed her hand against her mouth, swallowing bile. I need to leave, she said abruptly, standing up too fast. The room tilted. Luca was around the desk in seconds, steadying her by the elbow. Sit down before you pass out. Don't touch me. I'm not the one trying to kill you, Luca said sharply. Sit. Down. Evelyn's legs gave out. She collapsed back into the chair, shaking so hard her teeth rattled. Luca crouched in front of her, putting himself at eye level, not looming, not threatening, just present. Breathe, he said quietly. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Do it. She tried, failed, tried again. Her lungs felt like they were wrapped in barbed wire. Luca's hand settled on her knee, firm, grounding, not moving. Evelyn, look at me. She did. His dark eyes held hers with an intensity that cut through the panic. You're safe. You're in my home. Your mother is not here, and I'm not letting anything happen to you, understand? Why? The word ripped out of her. Why do you even care? You don't know me. I'm nobody. You're not nobody, Luca interrupted. His voice was hard now, edged with something that sounded like anger. And I care because what your mother did is the kind of evil that makes my work look like charity. He stood, walked back to his desk, poured another whiskey and drank it fast. I've killed people, Evelyn. I've done terrible things, but I've never looked at my own child and seen a payday. Evelyn's throat closed. She wanted to cry, wanted to scream, wanted to burn the world down and her mother with it. Instead, she just sat there, trembling, trying to hold herself together with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. What do I do? She asked hoarsely. Luca refilled his glass, then poured a second and slid it across the desk toward her. You drink this. Then you sleep. And tomorrow, we figure out how to bury her. Evelyn picked up the whiskey with both hands to keep from spilling it. The liquor burned going down, sharp and cleansing. She finished the glass and set it down carefully. I want her destroyed, she said. Good, Luca replied, because so do I. Morning came too fast and too bright. Evelyn woke on the couch in Luca's study with a blanket she didn't remember pulling over herself. Her head pounded. Her mouth tasted like ash. Every muscle in her body felt like it had been beaten with a hammer. Sophia appeared in the doorway holding a tray with coffee and aspirin. Mr. Moretti said you'd need these, Sophia said, setting the tray on the side table. Her expression was neutral, professional, but something in her eyes suggested she knew more than she was saying. Where is he? Evelyn asked, her voice rough. Handling business. Sophia handed her the aspirin and a glass of water. He'll be back this afternoon. In the meantime, you should eat something. Evelyn swallowed the pills and drank the entire glass of water in 4 desperate gulps. I'm not hungry. You will be in an hour, Sophia said. I'll leave a plate in your room. She left before Evelyn could argue. Evelyn sat alone in the study, staring at the closed file folder on Luca's desk. The life insurance policy was still inside, proof that her mother had valued her more dead than alive. She'd known Celeste was cruel, violent, selfish, but this was different. This wasn't rage or frustration boiling over into fists. This was premeditated, calculated, cold. Evelyn stood on shaking legs and walked to the windows. Chicago stretched out below her in hard morning light, concrete and glass, and millions of people living their lives without knowing that 20 floors above them, a girl was discovering her mother had tried to have her murdered. Her reflection stared back from the glass, pale, thin, still wearing the fading bruise on her cheekbone like a brand. She looked like a victim. She was done looking like a victim. Luca returned at 3 in the afternoon with another man Evelyn had never seen before. The stranger was older, mid-50s, gray hair, expensive suit, the kind of face that belonged in courtrooms and boardrooms. He carried a leather briefcase and moved with the careful precision of someone used to being watched. This is Marcus Chen, Luca said, closing the study door behind them. The lawyer I mentioned. Evelyn's pulse spiked. Why is he here? Because I asked him to be, Luca said. He gestured to the chairs. Sit, both of you. Marcus sat, set his briefcase on his lap, and looked at Evelyn with the clinical assessment of a doctor examining a patient. Miss Vale, he said, I've been trying to reach you for several days. Your mother has been uncooperative. What do you want? Evelyn asked flatly. Marcus opened his briefcase and pulled out several documents. I represent the estate of your late grandmother, Margaret Holloway. Evelyn blinked. My grandmother died when I was 6. Yes, Marcus confirmed. And her will stipulated that a trust fund be established in your name, accessible when you turn 23. He slid a document across the desk. That was 4 months ago. Evelyn stared at the paper. I don't understand. Your grandmother left you $3 million, Marcus said. Your mother was named as trustee until you came of age, at which point she was legally obligated to transfer the funds to you. The room went very quiet. She never told me, Evelyn said slowly. I'm aware, Marcus replied. I've been attempting to contact you for months. Your mother claimed you were traveling abroad. When I pressed for details, she became hostile. He pulled out another document. I filed a petition with the court last week demanding proof of your well-being. That's when things became complicated. Luca leaned against the desk, arms crossed. Define complicated. Marcus looked uncomfortable. Mrs. Vale presented the court with a death certificate. Evelyn's blood turned to ice. What? A fraudulent one, Marcus clarified quickly, dated 2 weeks ago, claiming you died in a car accident in rural Wisconsin. He pulled out a photocopy. The certificate is a forgery, a poor one, but it was enough to delay my petition while the court verified its authenticity. Luca's expression went dark, dangerous. She tried to fake her daughter's death to steal the inheritance. And the life insurance payout, Marcus added. He looked at Evelyn. I'm guessing you didn't know about that either. I found out last night, Evelyn said numbly. Marcus nodded like this confirmed something. Your mother has been planning this for months, possibly longer. He pulled out more documents, bank statements, emails, transaction records. She's been liquidating assets, closing accounts, preparing to disappear. The moment that death certificate was validated and the insurance paid out, she would have been gone. Evelyn's hands clenched in her lap. How much of my grandmother's money is left? Marcus hesitated. Approximately $800,000. She stole over $2 million from me, Evelyn said flatly. Yes. The word hung in the air like a guillotine blade. Evelyn stood abruptly, walked to the window, pressed her forehead against the cold glass. Behind her, she heard Luca and Marcus talking in low voices. Legal terms, criminal charges, evidence chains. The words washed over her like static. Her mother had stolen her inheritance, filed a fake death certificate, taken out a life insurance policy, and delivered her to a mafia boss, expecting him to finish the job. Miss Vale? Evelyn turned. Marcus was watching her with something that might have been sympathy. I need you to understand something, he said carefully. What your mother has done is illegal on multiple levels. Fraud, embezzlement, attempted insurance fraud. If you press charges, she will go to prison. Good, Evelyn said. But it will be public, Marcus continued. Very public. The media will tear the story apart. Your life, everything that happened to you, will be examined under a microscope. I don't care, Luca pushed off the desk. You should care. The press will make you a spectacle. They'll dig up every ugly detail and broadcast it for entertainment. Evelyn met his eyes. Let them. I'm done hiding. Something shifted in Luca's expression. Respect, maybe. Or recognition. Marcus cleared his throat. There's another option. We can pursue this quietly. Civil court. Recover what's left of your inheritance, force her to repay the stolen funds, keep the criminal charges as leverage for a settlement. No, Evelyn said immediately. Evelyn, no. She walked back to the desk, planted her hands on the surface, and leaned forward. I don't want a settlement. I don't want her money. I want her exposed. I want everyone who thinks she's some kind of saint to see exactly who she is. Marcus glanced at Luca. Mr. Moretti? Luca was watching Evelyn with an expression she couldn't read. It's her choice. The fallout will be significant, Marcus warned. I know, Evelyn said. Your mother has powerful friends. They'll protect her. Then we'll need to be smarter than them. Marcus studied her for a long moment, then slowly smiled. It was the kind of smile sharks had right before they attacked. All right, he said. Let's bury her. What? The next 3 days blurred together in a crash course on legal warfare and criminal strategy. Marcus brought files, mountains of files, bank records, forged documents, email chains, phone logs. Everything Celeste had done wrong, documented in excruciating detail. Luca brought something else. Connections, information, leverage. People who owed him favors. Journalists who'd kill for this story. Politicians who'd turn on Celeste the second it became advantageous. And Evelyn brought rage. Cold, focused, surgical rage that burned away the fear and doubt and left only purpose. They worked in Luca's study like generals planning a siege. Marcus laid out the legal strategy, criminal charges filed simultaneously with civil suits, time to hit the courts and the media at the same moment. Maximum chaos, maximum exposure. Luca handled the underground angles, convincing the people Celeste owed money to that cooperating would be more profitable than revenge, turning her allies into witnesses, making sure that when the hammer dropped, there was nowhere for her to run. Evelyn absorbed everything like a sponge soaked in gasoline waiting for a match. She learned how money moved through shell corporations, how politicians stayed clean while taking dirty money, how Chicago's elite protected their own until it became inconvenient. She learned that her mother wasn't just a monster. She was part of a machine, and machines could be broken. Late on the third night, Evelyn found Luca on the rooftop garden, smoking a cigarette and staring at the city lights. She'd never seen him smoke before. "Didn't know you did that," she said, stepping out into the cold air. Luca glanced at her, took another drag. "I quit 5 years ago. Bad habit." "Why start again?" "Because I'm about to go to war with half of Chicago's power structure," Luca said. "And the last time I did that, people died." Evelyn moved to stand beside him at the railing. The wind cut through her sweater, but she didn't care. "You don't have to do this," she said quietly. "This is my fight." Luca laughed, short and bitter. "You think this is just about you? Isn't it?" "No." He flicked ash over the edge. "Your mother is connected to people I've been trying to expose for years. Senators, judges, business owners. The kind of criminals who hide behind legitimacy." He looked at her. "You're giving me the excuse I needed to burn it all down." "So I'm useful," Evelyn said. "You're not a tool," Luca said sharply. "You're a person who got dealt a nightmare hand and decided to fight back. That's rare. Most people just survive. Is that what you think I was doing before? Just surviving?" "Yes," Luca said bluntly. "And there's no shame in that. Survival is hard." He stubbed out the cigarette. "But you're not surviving anymore. You're choosing, and that scares the hell out of people like your mother." Evelyn's throat tightened. "What if we lose?" "We won't." "But what if—" "Evelyn," Luca turned to face her fully. "I don't lose. Not when I'm this motivated." "Why are you motivated?" she asked. "Really, not the political angles or the leverage. Why do you care what happens to me?" Luca was quiet for a long time. Long enough that Evelyn thought he wasn't going to answer. Then he said, "I had a sister once." Evelyn's breath caught. "Younger than me," Luca continued. "Sweet kid, trusted everyone. Our father was similar to your mother. Different methods, same result." His jaw tightened. "She didn't make it out." "Luca, I'm not telling you this for sympathy," he interrupted. "I'm telling you because when I look at you, I see what she could have been if someone had helped her, if someone had cared enough to step in." He met her eyes. "I can't save her, but I can make damn sure you don't end up like her." Evelyn felt something crack open in her chest, something that had been locked down for years. "Thank you," she whispered. Luca nodded once. "Don't thank me yet. This is going to get ugly." "I know." "Your mother will fight back. She'll lie. She'll manipulate. She'll try to make you look unstable." "I know." "And when this goes public, people will judge you. They'll pick apart every choice you ever made and decide whether you deserve sympathy." "I don't care," Evelyn said. "I just want her to pay." Luca studied her face for a long moment, then smiled, sharp and dangerous. "Then let's make her pay." The first strike came 48 hours later. Marcus filed a criminal complaint with the state attorney's office at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Fraud, embezzlement, attempted insurance fraud, forgery. The complaint was accompanied by 300 pages of evidence and a press release sent simultaneously to every major news outlet in Chicago. By 10 a.m., Celeste Vale's face was on every television screen in the city. By noon, her charity foundation was under investigation. By 3 p.m., the board of directors had voted to remove her. By 5 p.m., federal agents were executing a search warrant on her house. Evelyn watched it all unfold from Luca's study, sitting on the couch with her legs tucked under her, while news anchors dissected her mother's life in excruciating detail. Allegations of embezzlement dating back nearly a decade, fraudulent death certificate filed in her daughter's name. Sources say Evelyn Vale is alive and cooperating with investigators. Luca stood near the window with his phone pressed to his ear, coordinating with people whose names Evelyn didn't know. Sophia brought coffee and sandwiches that went cold and untouched. At 6 p.m., Luca's phone rang with a number he clearly recognized. He answered, listened. His expression went dark. "When?" he asked. Pause. "Where is she now?" Another pause. Keep her there. I'm on my way. He hung up and looked at Evelyn. Your mother's lawyer just requested a meeting. Evelyn's stomach dropped. Why? Because she wants to make a deal, Smertsen. The meeting happened in a conference room at Marcus Chen's law office downtown. Evelyn sat between Luca and Marcus at a polished table while Celeste's lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s named Patricia Ross, sat across from them with files stacked like ammunition. Celeste wasn't there. My client is willing to negotiate, Patricia said without preamble. She'll repay the stolen inheritance, resign from all public positions, and accept a plea deal that avoids prison time. Marcus didn't even blink. No, Patricia's smile was thin. You haven't heard the full offer. I don't need to, Marcus replied. Your client committed multiple felonies. She filed a fraudulent death certificate to steal her daughter's inheritance and attempted insurance fraud. She belongs in prison. My client is a respected member of this community. Your client, Luca interrupted quietly, is a con artist who beat her daughter for 11 years and tried to have her killed. Patricia's expression tightened. That's a serious accusation with no proof. I have medical records, Marcus said, hospital visits, police reports that were filed and mysteriously disappeared, witnesses. He slid a folder across the table. And I have Evelyn, who will testify. Patricia opened the folder. Her face went pale. My client is willing to make a substantial financial offer. We don't want her money, Evelyn said. Everyone turned to look at her. Patricia recovered quickly. Miss Vale, I understand you're emotional right now, but you need to think about your future. I am thinking about my future, Evelyn said. Her voice was steady, cold. And my future doesn't include letting my mother buy her way out of consequences. If this goes to trial, your life will be destroyed. My life was already destroyed, Evelyn interrupted. She made sure of that. The only difference now is that everyone else will know what she did. Patricia looked at Luca. Mr. Moretti, surely you understand the value of discretion. I understand that you're wasting my time, Luca said. He stood. We're done here. Marcus and Evelyn stood with him. Wait. Patricia was on her feet now, desperation creeping into her voice. My client has information about other people, powerful people. She's willing to cooperate. We already have that information, Marcus said. Your client is not as valuable as she thinks she is. They walked out. In the elevator, Evelyn's hands were shaking again, but this time it wasn't from fear. It was from adrenaline, power, control. That felt good, she admitted. Luca smiled. It's supposed to. Mom. The second strike came 3 days later when the Chicago Tribune published a front-page exposé titled The Devil in Designer Clothes, How Celeste Vale Built an Empire on Lies. The article was devastating. Interviews with abuse survivors who'd been denied help by the Vale Foundation, financial experts breaking down the money laundering, former employees describing Celeste's cruelty behind closed doors, and at the center of it all, Evelyn's story. Marcus had worked with Evelyn for hours crafting a statement that was honest without being exploitative. It focused on the facts, the abuse, the stolen inheritance, the insurance fraud, the fake death certificate. The public response was immediate and overwhelming. Sympathy for Evelyn, rage toward Celeste, calls for investigation, prosecution, justice. Within 24 hours, 3 more women came forward with stories of abuse at Celeste's hands. Former business partners filed lawsuits. Donors demanded refunds. Celeste's world was collapsing in real time, and Evelyn watched it happen with a cold satisfaction that felt like vindication. She was in the study reviewing legal documents when Sophia knocked on the door. There's someone here to see you, Sophia said carefully. Evelyn looked up. Who? Your mother. The room went silent. Luca appeared in the doorway seconds later, his expression dangerous. She's in the lobby demanding to see Evelyn. Building security is holding her. Evelyn's heart pounded against her ribs. How did she know I was here? Doesn't matter, Luca said. You don't have to see her. Evelyn stood slowly. Yes, I do. Evelyn, I need to see her, Evelyn said. Her voice was steady despite the panic clawing at her throat. I need to look her in the eye and know that I'm not afraid anymore. Luca studied her face, then nodded. I'm coming with you. No, Evelyn said. This is mine. Not negotiable, Luca replied. I'll stay back, but I'm not letting you face her alone. They rode the elevator down in silence. The lobby was empty except for two security guards holding Celeste Vale near the entrance. She looked different than Evelyn remembered. Older, thinner. Her designer suit was rumpled. Her perfect hair showed gray roots. The mask of polished elegance had cracked, revealing something desperate underneath. When she saw Evelyn, her eyes went wide. "Evelyn, let her go," Evelyn said to security. The guards released Celeste and stepped back. Celeste moved forward quickly, reaching for Evelyn's hands. "Oh, thank God you're alive." Evelyn jerked away. "Don't touch me." Celeste froze. "I was so worried. When I heard about the death certificate, I didn't know what happened." "You filed the death certificate," Evelyn said flatly. "Don't lie to me. Not now." Celeste's expression shifted, calculation moving behind her eyes. "You don't understand. I was protecting you. By stealing my inheritance? That money wasn't yours." "My grandmother left it to me," Evelyn interrupted. "You stole it, just like you stole everything else." Celeste's face hardened. The pretense of maternal concern evaporated, leaving only cold fury. "You ungrateful little bitch," she hissed. "After everything I've done for you." "You beat me," Evelyn said. Each word was a bullet. "You isolated me. You convinced me I was worthless. And then you tried to have me killed for insurance money. I gave you a roof over your head. You gave me bruises and trauma," Evelyn shot back. "And now you're going to prison for it." Celeste's laugh was sharp and brittle. "You think you've won? You think destroying me makes you strong?" She stepped closer, venom dripping from every word. "You're nothing without me. You'll always be the broken little girl I raised. And when this is over, when the cameras stop caring, you'll realize that nobody wants damaged goods." The words should have hurt. A week ago, they would have destroyed her. But now, Evelyn just looked at her mother and felt nothing. "You're wrong," Evelyn said quietly. "I was never broken. You just spent years trying to convince me I was." She took a step forward, forcing Celeste to step back. "But I'm done believing your lies, and soon everyone else will be too." Celeste's mask shattered completely. "You can't do this to me." "I already did," Evelyn said. "Now get out of this building before security throws you out." For a moment, Celeste looked like she might lunge at her. Then Luca moved into her line of sight, silent, deadly, a reminder that Evelyn wasn't alone. Celeste's courage broke. She turned and walked toward the exit, her heels clicking against marble like a death march. At the door, she looked back one last time. "You'll regret this," she said. Evelyn smiled. "No, I really won't." Celeste left. The lobby doors closed behind her, and Evelyn finally exhaled. Well, back in the penthouse, Evelyn collapsed on the couch in the study while Luca poured whiskey for both of them. "How do you feel?" he asked, handing her a glass. Evelyn took it, drank half in one swallow. "Like I can breathe for the first time in years." "Good." They sat in silence for a while, watching the city lights through the windows. "She'll fight back," Evelyn said finally. "She's not going to just accept this." "Let her fight," Luca replied. "We have everything we need to bury her." "What if it's not enough?" Luca looked at her. "Then we find more." Evelyn set down her glass. "How far are you willing to go?" "As far as it takes," Luca said without hesitation. "Your mother is connected to people who've been untouchable for too long. Taking her down opens doors, creates opportunities." He paused. "But more than that, she hurt you, and I don't let that slide." "Why?" Evelyn asked. "Why does it matter so much to you?" Luca was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Because the world is full of people like your mother. People who hurt others and face no consequences because they're rich or connected or powerful." His jaw tightened. "And I'm tired of watching them win." Evelyn's chest tightened. "Is that what this is? Making them lose?" "No," Luca said. "This is about making sure you win." The words hit her like a physical thing, warm and solid and real. Nobody had ever cared about her winning before. "Luca." His phone rang. He answered, listened, and his expression went dark. "When?" Pause. "Show me." He hung up and immediately opened his laptop, typed something, then turned the screen toward Evelyn. It was a news article, posted 20 minutes ago. The headline read, Evelyn Vale, victim or opportunist, inside the accusations against Chicago's newest socialite. Evelyn's blood ran cold. The article was poison disguised as journalism. It questioned her motives, suggested she was lying about the abuse, implied she was working with Luca Moretti to extort her mother. Anonymous sources called her unstable, manipulative, a gold digger. The comments section was worse. This is character assassination, Evelyn whispered. This is your mother's counterattack, Luca said grimly. He pulled up another tab, a gossip blog, then another news site, then social media. The same narrative was spreading everywhere. She's trying to destroy your credibility before the trial. Evelyn's hands clenched into fists. Can we stop it? Not fast enough, Luca admitted. By morning, this will be everywhere. Your face, your name, your story twisted into something ugly. So what do we do? Luca closed the laptop and looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. We hit back harder, he said. And we do it publicly. How? There's a gala in 3 days, Luca said slowly. The Black Orchid Foundation event at the Palmer House. 500 guests. Politicians, billionaires, media executives, the most powerful people in Chicago. He paused. Your mother is scheduled to receive an award there. Evelyn's pulse quickened. You want to crash it? No, Luca said. I want you to walk in as my guest, in front of everyone, with your head up and your story ready. His smile was sharp and dangerous. Let them see you're not hiding, not broken, not ashamed. They'll tear me apart. Only if you let them, Luca countered. But if you walk in there strong, if you control the narrative instead of running from it, you win. Evelyn's mind raced. The idea was insane, dangerous, exactly the kind of public spectacle that would either vindicate her or destroy her completely. What if I can't do it? She asked quietly. Luca leaned forward. Then don't. We'll find another way. But you think this is the best option? I think, Luca said carefully, that your mother is counting on you staying silent. She's counting on you being too scared to fight back publicly, and the moment you prove her wrong, you take away her power. Evelyn looked at the closed laptop, at the poison spreading across the internet, at the lies designed to make her disappear. She thought about those women at the safe house, about the inheritance her grandmother left her, about 11 years of bruises and silence and believing she deserved it. She thought about her mother's face in the lobby, the rage and fear and desperate need to control, and she realized something. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was angry. I'll do it, Evelyn said. Luca smiled. Good. Then let's plan a war. The next 72 hours were a masterclass in controlled chaos. Marcus worked the legal angles, depositions, evidence, witness prep, making sure that when the gala ended, the arrests would be ready. Luca worked his network, journalists who'd cover the event, security who could be paid to look away, allies who'd make sure the right people were watching. And Evelyn worked on herself. She practiced walking in heels she'd never worn, practiced holding her head high when everything in her wanted to hide, practiced telling her story without breaking, clear, direct, unashamed. Sophia brought in a stylist who treated Evelyn like she mattered. The woman chose a black satin gown that was elegant and devastating, cut to show strength instead of vulnerability. You're going to war, the stylist said, adjusting the neckline. Dress like it. The night before the gala, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She found Luca in the study at 2 a.m., reviewing security layouts and guest lists. Nervous? He asked without looking up. Terrified, Evelyn admitted. Good. Luca finally looked at her. Fear keeps you sharp. What if I freeze? What if I see her and can't speak? Then I'll speak for you, Luca said simply. But you won't freeze. How do you know? Because you didn't freeze when she showed up in my lobby, Luca said. You stood your ground, and tomorrow you'll do it again. Evelyn sat in the chair across from him. What happens after tomorrow? After tomorrow, the world knows your mother for who she really is, Luca said, and you get to decide what kind of life you want to build. Without her. Without her, Luca confirmed. Evelyn was quiet for a moment. I don't know who I am without her. Then find out, Luca said. You've got time. What if I'm not strong enough? Luca leaned back in his chair, studying her with those dark, unreadable eyes. Evelyn, he said quietly, you survived 11 years of abuse, had your inheritance stolen, discovered your mother tried to have you murdered, and you're still here. Still fighting, still standing. He paused. You're stronger than you think. You just need to start believing it. Something warm and fragile unfurled in Evelyn's chest. Thank you, she whispered. Luca nodded once. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. Evelyn stood, started toward the door, then stopped. Luca? Yeah? Why are you really doing this? He looked at her for a long moment, something complicated moving behind his eyes. Because the world is full of people who protect monsters, he said finally. And I decided a long time ago I wouldn't be one of them. Evelyn nodded and left the study. As she walked back to her room, she realized something that made her chest tighten. For the first time in her life, she had someone on her side, someone who saw her as worth protecting, someone who made her believe she could win. And tomorrow, she was going to prove him right. The morning of the gala arrived cold and bright. Evelyn woke early, showered, and stood in front of the mirror in her room for a long time. The bruise on her cheekbone had faded to a yellowish shadow. The split lip was healed. The girl who'd been shoved across Luca's study floor 3 weeks ago was gone. In her place stood someone harder, sharper, dangerous. Sophia helped her into the black gown at 4 p.m. The fabric moved like liquid darkness, elegant and unforgiving. The stylist returned to do her hair and makeup, simple, classic, with the fading bruise deliberately left visible. Let them see it, the stylist said. Let them know what she did. At 6 p.m., Luca knocked on her door. He was in a tailored black suit with a crisp white shirt open at the collar, tattoos visible on his forearms. He looked like exactly what he was, controlled violence wrapped in expensive fabric. His eyes swept over her, and something flickered in his expression. You ready? He asked. Evelyn took a deep breath. Yes. They rode the elevator down in silence. The SUV was waiting in the underground garage. Bulletproof windows, armed driver, every security measure money could buy. As they pulled into Chicago traffic, Luca handed her a small earpiece. Marcus and my security team will be listening, he explained. If anything goes wrong, say the word and we pull you out. Evelyn nodded, fitted the earpiece carefully. What's the word? Luca smiled grimly. Orchid. The drive to the Palmer house took 20 minutes. Evelyn spent the entire time trying to control her breathing. When the hotel came into view, all golden lights and red carpets and photographers, her heart tried to claw out of her chest. Last chance, Luca said quietly. You don't have to do this. Evelyn looked at the cameras, the crowd, the glittering facade of Chicago's elite gathering to celebrate her mother. Yes, she said. I do. The SUV stopped. The driver opened the door. Luca stepped out first, then offered her his hand. Evelyn took it, and together they stepped into the light. But the cameras went insane. Flashbulbs exploded like gunfire. Reporters shouted questions. Security tried to hold back the crush of bodies pressing forward. Evelyn kept her head high and her hand in Luca's, letting him cut a path through the chaos. Miss Vale, is it true you're pressing charges? Mr. Moretti, are you and Evelyn Vale together? Evelyn, what do you have to say to your mother? She didn't answer, just walked forward with Luca beside her, radiating calm confidence she didn't feel. They reached the hotel entrance. The doors opened, and Evelyn stepped into a ballroom that looked like a fairy tale designed by people who'd never experienced real darkness. Golden chandeliers, white marble floors, 500 people in designer gowns and expensive suits, champagne glasses in hand, laughter echoing off crystal. And standing near the stage in a champagne-colored dress and diamonds, Celeste Vale. Their eyes met across the crowded room. Celeste's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered against the floor. Silence rippled outward like a shockwave. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. 500 people stared at Evelyn Vale, alive, unbroken, standing beside Chicago's most dangerous man. Celeste recovered fast, forcing a brittle smile onto her face. She started across the ballroom, heels clicking against marble, panic bleeding through her eyes despite the performance. She stopped 3 feet away. "Evelyn?" she said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "What a surprise!" Evelyn smiled back, cold and sharp, and completely unafraid. "You didn't expect me to survive," she said clearly. The silence in the ballroom turned suffocating. Celeste's smile faltered. "I don't know what you—" Luca raised one hand, and every screen in the ballroom, the massive projection displays meant for the award ceremony, exploded to life. Bank records, offshore accounts, hospital reports with Evelyn's name and photographs of bruises, medical files dating back 11 years, and finally, the life insurance policy. $2 million tied to Evelyn's death. The ballroom detonated into chaos. Cameras flashed, reporters surged forward, politicians backed away from Celeste like she was radioactive. Board members fled. Donors stared in horror. Celeste tried to speak, tried to deny it, but her voice was drowned out by the roar of 500 people realizing they'd been celebrating a monster. Security moved in. Detectives Evelyn hadn't noticed stepped out of the crowd. And in the center of it all stood Evelyn, calm, unshaking, finally seen. Not broken, unbreakable. Celeste's eyes met hers one last time, desperate, furious, defeated, and Evelyn smiled. Because for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid. She had won. The ballroom was still drowning in chaos when the first gunshot shattered a champagne flute 6 inches from Evelyn's head. Glass exploded, screams erupted, bodies scattered in every direction like startled birds. Luca's hand was on Evelyn's arm instantly, yanking her down behind a marble column, while his other hand went to the gun holstered beneath his jacket. "Stay down," he ordered. But there was no second shot. Just screaming, running, the crush of 500 terrified people trying to funnel through exit doors that weren't built for panic. Luca scanned the ballroom with predator focus, weapon drawn but not raised. His security team materialized from the crowd. 3 men in dark suits moving with military precision, forming a protective barrier around them. "Clear," one of them said into his radio. "Single shot, no active shooter visible." Evelyn's ears were ringing. Her heart slammed against her ribs so hard she thought they might crack. She pressed herself against the cold marble, trying to process what had just happened. Someone had tried to kill her, at her mother's gala, in front of witnesses. "We need to move," Luca said, hauling her to her feet. "Now." They pushed through the panicking crowd toward a service exit, Luca's men clearing a path. Evelyn caught a glimpse of Celeste being surrounded by detectives near the stage, her face a mask of manufactured horror. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. Celeste smiled. It was small, barely there, but unmistakable. She'd known. The realization hit Evelyn like ice water. Her mother had known someone would try to kill her tonight, had probably arranged it. And now, with 500 witnesses watching Evelyn get shot at during Celeste's public humiliation, the narrative would shift. Poor Celeste Vale. Wrongly accused by a disturbed daughter involved with dangerous criminals. And look, violence followed the girl everywhere, clearly unstable, clearly a liar. "Move faster," Luca growled, his hand tight on her elbow. They burst through the service exit into a narrow hallway lined with kitchen equipment and staff in white uniforms who pressed themselves against the walls. Luca's men surrounded them in a tight formation, weapons visible now, no longer pretending to be anything but what they were. The SUV was waiting in the service alley, engine running. They piled inside. The driver hit the gas before the door was even closed. Evelyn's hands were shaking so badly she couldn't unclasp them. She stared at her knuckles, white and bloodless, while Chicago blurred past the tinted windows. "Are you hurt?" Luca asked, his voice clipped and professional. Evelyn shook her head. "Look at me." She did. His dark eyes swept over her face, her shoulders checking for injuries with the efficiency of someone who'd done this before. "Talk to me," he said. "Are you in shock?" "She knew," Evelyn whispered. Luca's jaw tightened. "We don't know that—" "She smiled at me," Evelyn interrupted. Her voice was getting louder, sharper. "Right after the shot, she smiled because she knew this would happen. She set me up." Luca exhaled slowly through his nose. "We'll deal with it. First priority is getting you somewhere safe." "Safe?" Evelyn laughed, high and brittle. "She just tried to have me killed in front of 500 people and made it look like your fault. There is no safe. Evelyn? Don't. She pulled away from him, pressed herself against the far door. Don't tell me it's going to be fine. Someone just shot at me. At a gala. With cameras everywhere. Her breath was coming too fast now, panic clawing at her throat. This was supposed to expose her. Instead, she turned me into the villain. Luca's expression was granite. No one thinks you're the villain. They will, Evelyn said. By morning, every news outlet will be running stories about the unstable girl who destroyed her mother's reputation and brought gang violence to a charity event. She could already see the headlines, feel them wrapping around her throat. She wins. She always wins. She doesn't win, Luca said flatly. Not while I'm breathing. The SUV pulled into the underground garage of Luca's building. They rode the elevator in silence, Evelyn trying to control her breathing, Luca making quiet calls on his phone to people whose names she didn't hear. Back in the penthouse, Sophia was waiting with Marcus Chen and two men Evelyn didn't recognize. One was heavy-set with scarred knuckles. The other was lean and cold-eyed, the kind of person who looked comfortable with violence. Report, Luca said without preamble. The lean man spoke first. Single shot fired from the balcony level. Shooter used the panic to disappear. We're pulling security footage now. Who was the target? Luca asked. Hard to say, the man replied. The angle suggests Miss Vale, but it could have been a warning shot, deliberately missed. Evelyn's stomach turned. A warning shot that makes me look like I brought violence to the gala. Marcus cleared his throat. The media response has already started. 3 outlets have run stories suggesting you and Mr. Moretti orchestrated the event as a publicity stunt. A publicity stunt, Evelyn repeated numbly. And 5 more are questioning the validity of your abuse claims, Marcus continued. His expression was grim. Your mother's legal team released a statement an hour ago. They're claiming you've been manipulated by Mr. Moretti, that you're mentally unstable, that the documents shown tonight were fabricated. They were bank records, Evelyn said, hospital files, a life insurance policy with her signature, which her lawyers are now claiming were forged, Marcus interrupted gently. They're suggesting Mr. Moretti has the resources and motivation to create false evidence. Evelyn looked at Luca. Can they prove that? No, Luca said, because it's not true. But they don't need proof. They just need doubt. The room went quiet. Evelyn felt something crack inside her chest, the fragile hope that had been building over the past 3 weeks. The belief that truth mattered, that evidence was enough, that exposing her mother would lead to justice. So what do we do? She asked quietly. Marcus exchanged a glance with Luca. We have options. We can push forward with the criminal charges despite the PR damage. The evidence is solid, even if public opinion is turning. Public opinion is everything, the scarred man interrupted. His voice was gravel and cigarettes. You put this in front of a jury, right now they'll see a girl who's sleeping with a mobster and making accusations against a beloved philanthropist. You'll lose. He's right, Luca admitted. We need to pivot. Pivot how? Evelyn demanded. My mother just turned attempted murder into proof that I'm a liar. How do we come back from that? We find the shooter, Luca said. We prove your mother paid for the hit, and we make sure everyone knows it. And if we can't find them? No one answered. Evelyn stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I need air. She walked out onto the terrace before anyone could stop her. The city stretched out below, millions of lights, millions of people who had no idea that 43 floors above them, a girl was discovering that truth wasn't enough. The door opened behind her. Luca stepped out, closed it quietly. I know what you're thinking, he said. You don't. You're thinking this was a mistake, Luca continued, that fighting back made things worse, that you should have stayed quiet and survived. Evelyn's hands gripped the railing so hard her knuckles ached. She tried to kill me, in public, and somehow made it my fault. She didn't make it your fault. Then why does it feel like I'm the one being hunted? Evelyn turned to face him. Why does it feel like everything we did tonight just gave her more ammunition? Luca was quiet for a moment. Then he said, because your mother is better at this than we anticipated. The honesty was somehow worse than false comfort. So we lost, Evelyn said flatly. We lost the first round, Luca corrected. That's different. Is it? Yes. He moved closer, his expression serious. Your mother is smart, ruthless, connected, but she's also desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. What if she doesn't? She will, Luca said with certainty, because she's playing defense now, and defense eventually fails. Evelyn wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this wasn't over. But exhaustion was setting in, the bone-deep kind that came from too much adrenaline and not enough hope. I'm tired, she admitted quietly. I know. I don't know if I can keep doing this. Luca studied her face for a long moment. Then don't. Walk away. I'll make sure you're safe, set you up somewhere your mother can't reach you. You can start over. And she wins. She doesn't win, Luca said. You survive. That's winning. Evelyn looked out at the city again. Thought about running, hiding, building a quiet life somewhere far away from Chicago and Celeste Vale and the wreckage of the past 3 weeks. It would be easier, safer, empty. No, she said finally. No? I'm not running. Evelyn turned to face him fully. She took 11 years of my life. She tried to kill me twice. And tonight she turned my trauma into a PR strategy. Her voice was getting stronger now, fueled by rage instead of fear. I'm not giving her the satisfaction of watching me disappear. Luca's expression shifted, something like respect moving behind his eyes. Then we fight. How? We find proof she hired the shooter, Luca said. And when we do, we don't go to the press. We don't go to the courts. He paused. We go directly to her, and we make a deal she can't refuse. What kind of deal? The kind where she confesses everything publicly, Luca said, or we release evidence that destroys what's left of her life. You think she'll confess? I think she'll do whatever it takes to avoid prison, Luca replied. And right now, a confession with a sympathetic spin is her best option. Evelyn considered this. What if we can't find proof? Then we create leverage another way, Luca said. Your mother has enemies, people she's cheated, lied to, destroyed. We find them, and we build a coalition. A coalition. People willing to testify against her, corroborate your story, turn the narrative back in our direction. Luca's smile was sharp. Your mother thinks she's isolated you. We're going to prove she's the one who's alone. A spark of something dangerous flickered in Evelyn's chest. When do we start? Now. They went back inside. Marcus had files spread across the coffee table, names, addresses, case histories, people Celeste had wronged over the years. Former business partners, Marcus explained, tapping one stack, 3 separate lawsuits alleging fraud, all settled out of court with NDAs. He moved to another stack. Women who worked at the Vale Foundation, 2 filed harassment complaints, 1 disappeared before her case went to trial. Disappeared, Evelyn repeated. Left the city suddenly, Marcus clarified. No forwarding address, dropped the lawsuit without explanation. My mother paid her off, Evelyn said flatly. Or scared her off, Luca added. Either way, if we can find her, she might be willing to talk now that Celeste is vulnerable. The scarred man, whose name Evelyn learned was Dimitri, pulled out his phone. I've got contacts who can track people. Give me 24 hours. What about the shooter? Evelyn asked. Security footage from the Palmer house is being analyzed, the lean man, Anton, replied. We're also looking at financial transactions. If your mother hired someone, there's a paper trail. And if she was smart enough to hide it? Then we look at her known associates, Luca said. People who owe her favors. People desperate enough to take a risky job. He turned to Dimitri. Pull everything we have on Celeste's inner circle. Staff, lawyers, board members. Anyone with access and motivation. Dimitri nodded and left the room, phone already pressed to his ear. Marcus gathered his files. I'll start reaching out to the former employees quietly, see who's willing to cooperate. Be careful, Luca warned. If Celeste finds out we're building a case, she'll move to silence them. I know how to be discreet, Marcus said. He looked at Evelyn. Are you sure you want to do this? Once we start, there's no pulling back. Evelyn thought about the gunshot, the shattered glass, her mother's smile. I'm sure, she said. After Marcus and Anton left, Evelyn collapsed onto the couch. Every muscle in her body ached. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind exhaustion so profound she could barely keep her eyes open. Luca sat across from her, pouring 2 glasses of whiskey. He handed her one. "Drink," he said. "It'll help you sleep." Evelyn obeyed. The alcohol burned, but she welcomed it, something real and immediate to focus on. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For not telling me to give up." Luca's expression was unreadable. "I don't work with quitters." "Is that what I am?" Evelyn asked. "Someone who works for you?" "No," Luca said. "You're someone who's learning to fight back. There's a difference." Evelyn drained her glass. "What if I'm not good at it?" "You survived 11 years of abuse and a murder attempt," Luca replied. "You're better at it than you think." She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that she was strong enough to see this through. But doubt was a persistent thing, whispering in the back of her mind that her mother was right, that she was damaged, weak, worthless. "Hey!" Luca's voice cut through the spiral. "Look at me." She did. "Your mother spent years convincing you that you're nothing," he said. "That's what abusers do. They break you down so you never fight back." He leaned forward. "But you did fight back. You're still fighting back. And that terrifies her." "She doesn't look terrified," Evelyn said. "She looks like she's winning." "Because she's performing," Luca countered. "Behind the scenes, she's panicking. We just have to keep the pressure on until she breaks." Evelyn wanted to ask what happened if Celeste didn't break. What happened if her mother's will was stronger than their strategy, but she was too tired to hear the answer. "I need to sleep," she said instead. "Go," Luca replied. "I'll wake you if anything breaks." Evelyn stood, made it halfway to the door before she stopped and looked back. "Luca?" "Yeah?" "Do you really think we can win?" He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was careful, honest. "I think we have a chance," he said, "and sometimes that's enough." It wasn't the reassurance she wanted, but it was the truth, and right now, truth was all she had. Mate. Evelyn woke to her phone vibrating against the nightstand. She grabbed it blindly, squinting at the screen. 3 a.m. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Then it rang again. She answered. "Hello?" Breathing on the other end, ragged and familiar. "Evelyn?" Her blood turned to ice. "Mom?" "I need you to listen very carefully," Celeste said. Her voice was tight, controlled, terrified. "There are things you don't understand. Things Luca hasn't told you." Evelyn sat up, fully awake now. "What are you talking about?" "He's using you," Celeste hissed. "Everything he's done, protecting you, helping you, making you feel safe. It's manipulation. He doesn't care about you. He cares about destroying me because I know things about his operation that could put him away for life." "You're lying." "I have proof," Celeste interrupted. "Documents. Recordings. Evidence that Luca Moretti has been planning to use you as a weapon against me for months. Long before I ever brought you to him." Evelyn's chest tightened. "That's impossible." "Is it?" Celeste's laugh was bitter. "Think about it, Evelyn. Why would a man like Luca Moretti care about some broken girl he doesn't know? Why would he risk his empire to help you?" Pause. "Because you were never the point. I was. You're just trying to turn me against him. Meet me," Celeste said urgently. "Tomorrow, noon. The coffee shop on Randolph where we used to go when you were little. I'll bring everything, and you can decide for yourself who's telling the truth." "Why would I ever meet you?" "Because if you don't, people you care about are going to get hurt," Celeste said quietly. "Luca has enemies, Evelyn, dangerous ones, and they're coming for him. If you're with him when they arrive, you'll be collateral damage." "Is that a threat?" "It's a warning," Celeste replied, "from your mother, who despite everything still doesn't want to see you dead." The line went dead. Evelyn sat in the darkness, heart pounding, mind racing. It was a trap. Obviously a trap. Her mother was desperate and lying and trying to isolate her from the only person who'd helped her. But what if she wasn't? What if Luca had been using her this whole time? No, that was insane. Take. Luca had saved her, protected her, given her the tools to fight back. Unless that was exactly what he wanted her to think. Evelyn's hands were shaking again. She hated it. Hated that her mother could still get inside her head with a single phone call. Hated that doubt was creeping back in like poison. She should tell Luca, right now. Wake him up and tell him what Celeste said. Instead, she sat there in the dark, staring at her phone, and wondered if she'd been wrong about everything. Morning came gray and cold. Evelyn didn't sleep after the call. She just lay in bed watching the city wake up beyond her windows, trying to logic her way through the impossible choice her mother had laid at her feet. Go to the meeting and walk into a trap. Or don't go and wonder forever if Celeste was telling the truth. At 8 a.m., there was a knock on her door. "Come in," she called. Luca entered with coffee and the morning newspapers. His expression was grim. "You need to see this," he said, handing her the Chicago Tribune. The headline made her stomach drop. Vale heiress in crosshairs. Questions mount about Evelyn Vale's relationship with organized crime. The article was poison. Anonymous sources claiming she'd been seen at Luca's properties for weeks before the gala. Suggestions that she'd been working with him to extort her mother. Speculation about mental illness, drug use, manipulation. "This is character assassination," Evelyn whispered. "This is your mother's second wave," Luca replied. "She's not going after the evidence anymore. She's going after you." Evelyn set down the paper with shaking hands. "It's working. Only if we let it." Luca sat on the edge of the bed. "Marcus has 3 former Vale Foundation employees ready to go on record about Celeste's abuse. Dimitri found the woman who disappeared. She's willing to talk. And Anton pulled security footage showing someone leaving the Palmer House balcony 30 seconds after the shot. Do we have an ID?" "Working on it," Luca said. "But we're close, Evelyn. Closer than your mother wants us to be." Evelyn's throat was tight. She should tell him about the phone call, should lay it all out and let him help her make sense of it. Instead, she heard herself ask, "Why are you helping me?" Luca's expression shifted, something guarded moving behind his eyes. "We've been over this." "No," Evelyn said. "We've danced around it, but I need you to tell me the truth. Why does Evelyn Vale matter to Luca Moretti?" Luca was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Because your mother has been a problem for me for years. She's connected to people I've been trying to expose. She launders money for them, provides them with legitimate cover, makes them untouchable." He paused. "Taking her down opens doors, creates opportunities." Evelyn's chest went cold. "So I'm useful." "You're a person who deserves justice," Luca corrected. "The fact that helping you also helps me doesn't make your pain less real. But it does make your motives complicated." "Yes," Luca admitted. "It does." The honesty should have been comforting. Instead, it felt like confirmation of her worst fears. "My mother called me last night," Evelyn said quietly. Luca went very still. "What did she say?" "That you've been using me. That you planned this whole thing before she ever brought me here." Evelyn met his eyes. "Is that true?" "No," Luca said immediately. "I knew about your mother's operation. I was building a case against her. But I didn't know about you until she walked you into my study. But once you knew—" "Once I knew, I saw an opportunity," Luca interrupted. "I'm not going to lie to you about that. Your mother handed me leverage I'd been trying to get for months." He leaned forward. "But that doesn't mean I don't care what happens to you." "How do I know that?" Evelyn asked. "How do I know this isn't just strategy?" Luca's jaw tightened. "Because if it was just strategy, I would have used you and thrown you away the second you served your purpose. Instead, I've kept you safe, given you resources, and made myself a target alongside you." His voice was hard now. "Your mother is right that I have enemies. And yes, they're coming. But I'm not pushing you away. I'm keeping you close because I'm not letting you face this alone." Evelyn wanted to believe him, wanted it so badly it hurt. "She wants to meet me," Evelyn said. "Noon, coffee shop on Randolph, says she has proof you've been manipulating me." "It's a trap," Luca said immediately. "I know." "Then you're not going." "What if she actually has proof?" Evelyn asked. Luca's expression darkened. "She doesn't. She's desperate, and she's trying to isolate you." "So you say." "Evelyn, how do I know who to trust?" The question burst out of her, raw and desperate. "My mother is a monster, but she's right that this all happened very conveniently for you, and you just admitted you were already investigating her before I showed up." She stood, started pacing. "What if I'm just a pawn? What if both of you are using me and I'm too stupid to see it?" "You're not stupid," Luca said firmly. "You're traumatized, and your mother is weaponizing that trauma to make you doubt yourself." Or you are, Evelyn shot back. The room went silent. Luca stood slowly. When he spoke, his voice was dangerous and controlled. If you genuinely believe I'm the same as your mother, then leave, he said. Walk out that door right now. I won't stop you. I'll even give you money and resources to start somewhere new. He moved closer. But don't insult me by comparing what I've done to 11 years of abuse. Evelyn's breath caught. I didn't mean... Yes, you did, Luca interrupted, because she got in your head and made you question everything. That's what she does. That's her power. His eyes bored into hers. But here's the difference between me and Celeste Vale. I'm giving you a choice. Right now, stay or go. Trust me or don't. But make the decision yourself instead of letting her make it for you. Evelyn's hands clenched into fists. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to protect herself, to trust no one. But running meant Celeste won, and trusting no one meant dying alone. I'm going to the meeting, she said finally. Evelyn, I need to see what she has, Evelyn continued. I need to look her in the eye and know for myself whether she's lying. She's absolutely lying. Then I'll know, Evelyn said. And when I do, I'll come back here and we'll finish this. Luca's expression was granite. You walk into that coffee shop and you're not walking out. You don't know that. I know your mother, Luca said, and I know how this ends. She either kills you or she drags you somewhere I can't reach you. Either way, you're gone. Not if you're watching, Evelyn replied. Send your people. Keep me covered. But let me do this. Luca stared at her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Anton, I need a full surveillance team at the coffee shop on Randolph. Noon, long-range coverage, multiple angles. Pause. Because Evelyn's walking into a trap, and I'm going to make sure she walks back out. He hung up and looked at her. You have 2 hours, he said. If anything feels wrong, anything at all, you say the word orchid and we extract you. Understood? Evelyn nodded. I mean it, Evelyn. Pride isn't worth dying for. I know, but as she turned and walked back to her room to get ready, she wasn't sure she believed that anymore. Sometimes pride was the only thing keeping you alive. The coffee shop on Randolph was exactly as Evelyn remembered. Small, cramped, smelling like burnt espresso and old wood. She'd come here with her mother when she was young, back when Celeste still pretended to care, back before the bruises started. She arrived at 11:55 and ordered black coffee she didn't drink. At noon exactly, Celeste walked in. She looked different. Older. Her designer suit was wrinkled. Her hair needed touching up. The mask of perfection had cracked, revealing exhaustion underneath. She sat across from Evelyn without ordering anything. You came, Celeste said. You knew I would, Evelyn replied. Celeste's smile was sad. You were always so predictable. What do you want? Celeste pulled a manila envelope from her bag and slid it across the table. Open it. Evelyn did. Inside were photographs. Luca meeting with men in expensive suits, documents with her name highlighted, emails discussing strategy, and a recording device. Play it, Celeste said. Evelyn's hands trembled as she pressed play. Luca's voice filled the small space between them. The Vale girl is perfect. Traumatized, isolated, desperate for help. She'll do whatever we need. Another voice. And if she becomes a liability? Then we handle it the way we always do. Evelyn's stomach turned to ice. It's fabricated, she whispered. You faked this. Voice analysis will prove it's real, Celeste said calmly. That recording is from 6 weeks ago, before I ever brought you to him. She leaned forward. He's been planning this, Evelyn, using you as a weapon against me because I know too much about his operation. Evelyn's mind was spinning. The recording sounded real. The photographs looked authentic, but her mother was a liar. Why are you showing me this? Evelyn asked. Because despite everything, you're still my daughter, Celeste said, and I don't want to see you destroyed by a man who views you as ammunition. You tried to have me killed. No, Celeste said firmly. I never wanted you dead. The life insurance policy was leverage against people I owed money to. I was going to fake your death, collect the payout, and send you somewhere safe with a new identity. That's insane. It was desperate, Celeste corrected. I was drowning, and I made terrible choices. But killing you was never the plan. Her eyes filled with tears that looked almost real. And when Luca showed you that policy, he knew exactly how you'd react. He weaponized your trauma against me. Evelyn wanted to call it lies, but the recording kept playing in her head. She'll do whatever we need. What do you want from me? Evelyn asked hoarsely. Come with me, Celeste said. Right now. Leave Chicago. Start over somewhere Luca can't reach you. I'll give you the inheritance money. All of it. And we'll both disappear. Together? If you'll let me, Celeste said. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I can keep you safe. And that's more than Luca Moretti will ever do. Evelyn's throat was closing. She pressed the button on the recording device hidden in her jacket pocket, the one Luca had given her, activating the extraction signal. Nothing happened. She pressed it again. Still nothing. Her pulse spiked. Looking for rescue? Celeste asked softly. She pulled out a small electronic device. Signal jammer. Your boyfriend's people can't hear you, can't track you, can't save you. She stood. Now we're leaving. Together. And you're going to make a choice about who you trust. The back door of the coffee shop opened. 2 men entered, large, armed. Not Luca's people. Evelyn's blood turned to ice. What are you doing? Protecting you, Celeste said, whether you want it or not. One of the men grabbed Evelyn's arm. She tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. Mom, it's for your own good, Celeste said. There was something wild in her eyes now, desperate. Luca Moretti is dangerous. He'll use you until there's nothing left, and then he'll throw you away. I won't let that happen. They dragged Evelyn toward the back door. She screamed. Celeste slapped her. The sound cracked through the coffee shop like a gunshot. Don't make this harder than it has to be, Celeste hissed. And then they were outside, shoving her into a black van with tinted windows. Evelyn fought, kicked, screamed until one of the men pressed a cloth over her face and the world dissolved into chemical darkness. Her last coherent thought was that she'd been wrong about everything, and now she was going to die for it. Evelyn woke to the smell of mildew and gasoline. Her head pounded like someone had taken a sledgehammer to her skull. Her mouth tasted like chemicals and copper. When she tried to move, her wrists screamed in protest, zip-tied to a metal chair bolted to concrete. The room was small, windowless. A single bare bulb swung overhead, casting shadows that moved like living things. Water dripped somewhere she couldn't see. The walls were cinder blocks, stained with rust and things she didn't want to identify. She was in a basement, or a warehouse, somewhere underground where screaming wouldn't matter. You're awake. Evelyn's head snapped up despite the pain. Celeste stood near the door in the same wrinkled suit, arms crossed, watching her daughter with clinical detachment. Where am I? Evelyn's voice came out raw, broken. Somewhere safe, Celeste replied. This isn't safe. Safe from Luca Moretti, Celeste clarified. He can't reach you here, can't manipulate you, can't use you as a weapon against me. Evelyn's wrist twisted against the zip ties. The plastic bit into her skin but didn't give. You drugged me. Kidnapped me. I saved you, Celeste interrupted. From a man who was going to get you killed. She moved closer, crouched so they were eye level. That recording I played you was real, Evelyn. Luca has been planning to use you from the beginning. Everything he told you, every kindness, every protection was calculated manipulation. You're lying. Am I? Celeste pulled out her phone, played the recording again. Luca's voice filled the small space. The Veil Girl is perfect, traumatized, isolated, desperate for help. She'll do whatever we need. Evelyn's stomach twisted. It sounded real, too real. That could be fabricated, she said desperately. AI voice generation. I had it analyzed, Celeste said, by 3 separate experts. It's authentic. Recorded 6 weeks before I brought you to him. She stood. He targeted you, Evelyn, researched you, waited for the perfect moment to swoop in and play savior. Then why did you bring me to him? Celeste's expression flickered, something like guilt crossing her face. Because I didn't know. I thought I was paying off a debt. I didn't realize he'd been orchestrating this for months. She paused. By the time I understood what he was doing, you were already in too deep. Evelyn's mind was racing, trying to find holes in the story, but exhaustion and drugs made thinking feel like wading through mud. The life insurance policy, Evelyn said. You can't explain that away. I told you, Celeste said. It was leverage. I was drowning in debt. Dangerous people wanted payment. I took out the policy to prove I had assets coming, but I was never going to kill you. Her voice cracked. You're my daughter. You beat me for 11 years. I know. Celeste's eyes filled with tears. And I'll spend the rest of my life hating myself for it. But that doesn't mean I wanted you dead. She knelt again, reached out like she might touch Evelyn's face before thinking better of it. I made terrible mistakes. I hurt you in ways I can never fix. But losing you to Luca Moretti is not atonement. It's just another crime. Evelyn wanted to believe her mother was lying, wanted it with every fiber of her being, but the recording kept playing in her head. She'll do whatever we need. What do you want from me? Evelyn asked hoarsely. I want you to let me fix this, Celeste said. I have money hidden offshore. Enough for both of us to disappear. New identities, new lives. Somewhere far from Chicago and Luca and all of this. She gestured at the zip ties. I'll cut you loose right now if you agree to come with me. And if I don't? Celeste's expression hardened. Then you stay here until you see reason. That's kidnapping. That's protection, Celeste corrected. From yourself. She stood and walked toward the door. Wait. Celeste paused. How long are you planning to keep me here? Evelyn asked. As long as it takes, Celeste replied. Hours, days, however long you need to understand that I'm trying to save your life. Then she left, the door closing with a metallic clang that echoed like a death knell. Evelyn was alone. Onban. Time became meaningless in the basement. The bulb overhead never turned off. There was no clock, no windows, no way to measure how many hours passed. Evelyn drifted in and out of consciousness, her body fighting the lingering effects of whatever drug they'd used. When she was lucid, she tested the zip ties, pulled until her wrists bled, tried to tip the chair despite it being bolted down, screamed until her throat was raw. Nothing worked. She was trapped. And somewhere above her, Luca was either searching for her or proving her mother right by not caring she was gone. The door opened. Not Celeste this time. One of the men from the coffee shop, the bigger one with scarred knuckles and dead eyes. He set a bottle of water and a protein bar on the floor within reach if Evelyn could get her hands free. She couldn't. Please, she said, just cut the ties. I won't run. The man didn't respond, just turned and left. The door locked again. Evelyn stared at the water bottle 3 feet away, close enough to see, too far to reach. A special kind of cruelty. She lost track of how long she sat there before exhaustion pulled her under again. When she woke, Celeste was back. She looked worse than before, makeup smeared, hair falling out of its careful arrangement. The polished philanthropist was cracking, revealing something frantic underneath. Luca's looking for you, Celeste said without preamble. He's tearing the city apart. Hope flared in Evelyn's chest. Good. It's not good, Celeste snapped. He's using you as an excuse to go to war with people I'm connected to. People who will kill both of us if this doesn't stop. Then let me go and I'll tell him to stop. Celeste laughed, high and broken. You still don't understand. Luca doesn't care about you. He cares about destroying me. And when you're no longer useful, he'll discard you like garbage. You're projecting, Evelyn said. That's what you do. What you've always done. Celeste's hand moved before Evelyn could react. A slap that snapped her head sideways and filled her mouth with blood. The violence was familiar, almost comforting in its predictability. Don't, Celeste hissed. Psychoanalyze me. You don't know anything about what I've had to do to survive. I know you beat your daughter, Evelyn said, spitting blood onto the concrete. I know you stole from me, and I know you're keeping me in a basement because you're terrified of losing control. Another slap. Harder this time. Evelyn's vision blurred. Her cheek throbbed, but she smiled through the blood. That's all you know how to do, isn't it? She said. Hit things until they break. Celeste's composure shattered completely. She grabbed Evelyn's face, nails digging into bruised skin. You want to know the truth? Celeste said, her voice shaking. Fine. Here's the truth. I never wanted you. You were a mistake that ruined my life and trapped me in a marriage I hated. And every time I looked at you, all I saw was everything I'd lost. The words should have hurt. A week ago, they would have destroyed her. But now, Evelyn just looked her mother in the eye and said, I know. I've always known. Celeste released her, stumbled back like she'd been hit. Then why did you fight so hard to survive? She asked. If you knew I didn't want you, why not just give up? Because, Evelyn said, I knew I was worth more than what you told me I was. Celeste's face crumpled. For a moment she looked human, lost, almost sympathetic. Then the mask slammed back into place. We're leaving in 2 hours, she said. Plane to Mexico. New identities, new lives. You're coming whether you want to or not. She left before Evelyn could respond. Evelyn had 2 hours to figure out how to escape. She started with the zip ties again. Pulled until her wrists were slick with blood and the plastic still didn't budge. Tried to reach the water bottle with her foot, but it was too far away. The chair wouldn't tip. The concrete wouldn't crack. She was trapped. Then she heard it. Gunfire. Distant but unmistakable. 3 shots in rapid succession, then shouting. Evelyn's pulse spiked. She strained against the zip ties, blood making them slippery now. One wrist started to slide. The door exploded inward. Not Celeste, not her guards. Luca. He stood in the doorway in a black tactical vest over his dress shirt, gun in hand, blood spattered across his face. His eyes swept the room and locked on Evelyn with an intensity that stole her breath. Are you hurt? He demanded. Luca. He was across the room in 3 strides, pulling a knife from his belt and cutting through the zip ties in one motion. Evelyn's hands fell free, numb and screaming. Luca caught her before she collapsed. Can you walk? He asked. I think... More gunfire, closer now. We need to move, Luca said. He pulled her to her feet, steadied her when her legs tried to give out. Stay behind me. Don't stop. Understand? Evelyn nodded. They ran. The basement opened into a warehouse. Industrial. Abandoned. Exactly the kind of place bodies disappeared. 2 men lay on the floor in spreading pools of blood. Luca's people, Anton and Dmitri, stood near the exit with weapons drawn. Clear? Luca called. West exit is hot, Anton replied. 3 hostiles, heavy weapons. Then we go east. Luca kept Evelyn close, one arm around her waist as they moved toward the opposite door. They made it 10 feet before Celeste appeared. She stood in the eastern doorway with a gun in shaking hands, aimed directly at Luca's chest. Let her go, Celeste said. Luca stepped in front of Evelyn. Put the gun down, Celeste. She's my daughter. She's a person, Luca corrected, and you don't own her. Celeste's hands were trembling so badly the gun wavered. You used her. You manipulated her. You turned her against me. You did that yourself, Luca interrupted. 11 years of abuse, stolen inheritance, life insurance fraud. His voice was ice. You destroyed your relationship with your daughter long before I entered the picture. I was trying to protect her from people like you. By keeping her in a basement? Luca's smile was sharp. That's not protection. That's imprisonment. She doesn't understand what you are, Celeste said desperately. What you're capable of. I know exactly what he is, Evelyn said, stepping out from behind Luca. Celeste's aim shifted to her daughter. Evelyn, please. He's violent, Evelyn continued. Dangerous. Runs a criminal empire built on fear. She took another step forward despite Luca's hand trying to pull her back. But he's never pretended to be anything else. You spent years lying about who you were while beating me behind closed doors. I made mistakes. You tried to have me killed, Evelyn said. That's not a mistake. That's attempted murder. Celeste's composure fractured. The recording was real. Luca was using you. Show me the metadata, Evelyn said. Celeste blinked. What? The recording, Evelyn pressed. Show me the metadata. Prove it wasn't fabricated. Celeste's gun hand dropped slightly. I told you, I had it analyzed. By experts you paid, Evelyn said. Show me the raw file, right now. Silence stretched between them. Then Celeste's expression crumbled. It doesn't matter if it was real, she said desperately. What matters is keeping you alive. You fabricated it, Evelyn said. The realization hit like ice water. There was no recording. You created it to turn me against Luca because you knew I was winning. I created it to save you. You created it to save yourself, Evelyn interrupted. Because if I testified against you, you'd lose everything. So you needed me gone or controlled or dead. Celeste's hands were shaking harder now. The gun was still pointed at them, but her finger wasn't on the trigger. I'm your mother, she whispered. You're a stranger who shares my DNA, Evelyn replied, and I'm done letting you control my life. Celeste's face went blank, empty, something cold and final settling behind her eyes. Then you've made your choice, she said. Her finger moved to the trigger. Luca's gun was up in a heartbeat, aimed at Celeste's head. Don't, he said quietly. Celeste smiled. It was sad and broken and terrifying. You think I'm afraid of dying? She asked. I've lost everything, my reputation, my empire, my daughter. Her aim steadied on Evelyn. If I can't have her, neither can you. Mom! The gunshot was deafening, but it didn't come from Celeste. Anton fired from the side entrance, a single shot that hit Celeste's shoulder and spun her around. Her gun clattered to the concrete. She collapsed, screaming, blood spreading across her cream suit. Luca was moving before Celeste hit the ground, pulling Evelyn behind a stack of crates, as more gunfire erupted from the west exit. The 3 hostiles Anton had mentioned came through shooting, automatic weapons turning the warehouse into a war zone. Dmitri returned fire. Anton reloaded. Luca shielded Evelyn with his body while bullets sparked off metal and shattered concrete. We need to get you out of here, Luca said. What about her? Evelyn gestured toward Celeste, who was crawling toward her dropped gun, leaving a trail of blood. She made her choice. More gunfire. One of the hostiles went down, then another. The third retreated back through the west exit. Dmitri moved to pursue, but Luca called him back. Let them go. We need to move. They ran for the east exit, stepping over Celeste, who was still reaching for her gun with her good hand. She looked up as Evelyn passed, their eyes meeting one final time. This isn't over, Celeste gasped. Yes, Evelyn said. It is. They ran. The SUV was waiting 3 blocks away with the engine running. They piled inside and the driver hit the gas before the doors were closed. Chicago blurred past tinted windows while sirens wailed in the distance. Evelyn sat in the back seat, shaking so hard her teeth rattled. Luca's arm was around her shoulders, steady and warm and real. You okay? He asked quietly. No, Evelyn admitted, but I'm alive. That's what matters. Evelyn looked at him, really looked at him. Blood on his face that wasn't his, vest still on, gun still holstered at his side. He'd come for her, torn apart a warehouse, risked his life and his people's lives to get her out. The recording, she said. Was it fake? Luca met her eyes. Yes. How do you know? Because I never said those words, he replied simply. Your mother created it using spliced audio from other conversations. It's sophisticated, but it's fabricated. Why didn't you tell me that before? Would you have believed me? Luca asked. Or would you have thought I was just trying to cover my tracks? Evelyn was quiet for a moment. I don't know. Exactly, Luca said. You needed to figure it out yourself, needed to see through her manipulation on your own terms. He paused. I couldn't force that realization. You had to choose to see the truth. And if I hadn't, then I would have pulled you out of that warehouse and spent the rest of my life trying to convince you, Luca said. But I knew you'd figure it out. You're smarter than she ever gave you credit for. Something warm unfurled in Evelyn's chest, fragile and new and terrifying. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me yet, Luca replied. Your mother's still alive, and as long as she's breathing, she's dangerous. What do we do? Luca's expression went dark. We finish this. Back at the penthouse, Marcus was waiting with files spread across every surface and a laptop showing news coverage of the warehouse shootout. The media is calling it gang violence, Marcus said without preamble. 3 dead, 1 injured. Celeste Vale was taken to Northwestern Memorial under police guard. How badly is she hurt? Evelyn asked. Shoulder wound, Marcus replied. She'll survive, but she's facing charges now. Kidnapping, attempted murder, conspiracy. Will they stick? Luca asked. Marcus hesitated. They should, but Celeste has lawyers and connections. She'll fight. Then we make sure she loses, Luca said. He turned to Evelyn. The former Vale Foundation employees Marcus contacted, they're still willing to testify. Yes, Marcus confirmed. And the woman who disappeared, Rebecca Chen, she's ready to go on record about what Celeste did to her. What did she do? Evelyn asked. Marcus pulled out a file. Rebecca worked at the foundation 5 years ago. She discovered the money laundering and threatened to go to the authorities. Celeste had her attacked, beaten badly enough to put her in the hospital for 2 weeks, then offered her a settlement with an NDA. Evelyn's hands clenched. She's done this before. Multiple times, Marcus confirmed. We have 4 other women willing to testify to similar patterns: abuse, intimidation, payoffs. How soon can we get this in front of a judge? Luca asked. 72 hours, Marcus said. I've been coordinating with the state attorney's office. They want Celeste Vale in prison as badly as we do. Good. Luca looked at Evelyn. Are you ready for this? Once we file, it's public, permanent, no going back. Evelyn thought about the basement, the zip ties cutting into her wrists. Her mother's gun pointed at her chest. I'm ready, she said. The preliminary hearing happened on a gray Thursday morning in a courtroom that smelled like old wood and broken promises. Celeste sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit with her arm in a sling. Her lawyers flanked her like guard dogs, expensive suits and practiced expressions of outrage. Evelyn sat in the gallery with Luca beside her and Marcus 1 row back. When Celeste turned and their eyes met, Evelyn didn't look away. The judge, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and no patience for theatrics, called the court to order. The charges were read: kidnapping, attempted murder, fraud, embezzlement, money laundering. Celeste's lead attorney stood. Your Honor, my client maintains her innocence. The allegations are based on fabricated evidence and the testimony of unreliable witnesses who have been coerced by organized crime figures. The judge looked unimpressed. Mr. Chen, your response? Marcus stood. Your Honor, we have multiple witnesses prepared to testify. We have financial records, medical files, recordings of threatening phone calls, and we have the victim, Evelyn Vale, who is willing to detail 11 years of systematic abuse. This is character assassination, Celeste's lawyer protested. My client is a respected philanthropist. Your client, the judge interrupted, is currently facing 9 felony charges. Her reputation is not my concern. Evidence is. She looked at Marcus. How many witnesses? 7, Your Honor, all willing to testify to similar patterns of abuse, fraud, and intimidation. The judge made a note. Bail? The people request remand, Your Honor, Marcus said. Ms. Vale is a flight risk. She has offshore accounts and has already demonstrated a willingness to use violence. Celeste's lawyer sputtered. My client was defending herself. Your client, Marcus interrupted, held her daughter captive in a warehouse and aimed a gun at her head. That's not self-defense. That's attempted murder. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge banged her gavel. Order. She looked at Celeste. Ms. Vale, do you have anything to say? Celeste stood slowly, her good hand gripping the table. When she spoke, her voice was calm, practiced, designed for sympathy. Your Honor, I love my daughter. Everything I've done, every mistake I've made was an attempt to protect her from dangerous people. She gestured at Luca. That man is a known criminal. He's manipulated Evelyn, turned her against me, and used her as a weapon in his war against legitimate businesses I'm connected to. Legitimate businesses? Marcus scoffed. Your Honor, we have evidence that Ms. Vale has been laundering money for 3 separate criminal organizations. Alleged evidence, Celeste's lawyer interjected. Bank records don't allege, Marcus shot back. They prove. The judge raised a hand. Enough. I've heard sufficient arguments. She looked at Celeste. Ms. Vale, given the severity of the charges and the evidence presented, I'm denying bail. You'll remain in custody pending trial. Celeste's composure cracked. Your Honor, this hearing is adjourned. The judge banged her gavel. Celeste was led away in handcuffs, her lawyers protesting loudly. As she passed Evelyn's row, she stopped. This isn't over, she said quietly. You think putting me in prison makes you free? You'll never be free of me. I'm in your blood, your DNA. Every time you look in a mirror, you'll see me looking back. Evelyn stood, stepped into the aisle so they were face to face. "You're right," she said. "I'll always carry pieces of you. The trauma, the scars, the lessons about what not to become." She leaned closer. "But that's all you are now. A lesson. And I'm done learning from you." Celeste's mask shattered completely. She lunged. The bailiff grabbed her, pulled her back. She was screaming now, all pretense of control gone, just raw fury and desperation. "You ungrateful bitch! After everything I sacrificed, you sacrificed nothing," Evelyn said over her mother's screaming. "You just took, and now you're paying for it." They dragged Celeste away, her screams echoing down the hallway until a door slammed and there was only silence. Evelyn stood in the empty courtroom, breathing hard, feeling like something fundamental had shifted inside her chest. Luca's hand settled on her shoulder. "You okay?" "Yeah," Evelyn said, and meant it. Outside the courthouse, cameras were waiting. Reporters shouted questions. Microphones were shoved forward. The circus Evelyn had been dreading was in full swing. Marcus stepped forward to handle the press, but Evelyn stopped him. "I've got this," she said. She walked to the microphones with her head up and her hands steady. "My name is Evelyn Vale," she said clearly, "and I'm here to tell you the truth about Celeste Vale." The crowd went silent. "For 11 years my mother beat me, isolated me, convinced me I was worthless. She stole my inheritance, took out a life insurance policy on me. And when I tried to hold her accountable, she kidnapped me and tried to kill me." Cameras flashed. Reporters scribbled notes. "I'm not sharing this for sympathy," Evelyn continued. "I'm sharing it because there are other people, other daughters, other victims, who are still trapped, who still believe the lies their abusers tell them." She paused. "You are not worthless. You are not weak, and you deserve better than what they're giving you." Someone shouted a question. "Are you worried about retaliation?" "No," Evelyn said, "because I'm not afraid anymore, and fear is the only power they have." Another question. "What about your relationship with Luca Moretti?" Evelyn glanced back at Luca, who stood at the courthouse steps watching her with something that might have been pride. "Luca Moretti saved my life," she said simply. "Multiple times, and I'm grateful." "Are you together?" "That's none of your business," Evelyn replied. "But if you're asking whether I trust him, yes. More than I've ever trusted anyone." She stepped back from the microphones. Marcus took over, fielding the barrage of questions while Luca guided Evelyn to the waiting SUV. Inside, she finally let herself collapse. "You did good," Luca said quietly. "I told the truth," Evelyn replied. "That's all I did." "That's everything," Luca corrected. They drove in silence for a while. Then Evelyn asked the question that had been burning in her chest. "What happens now?" "Now," Luca said, "we wait for the trial. Make sure your mother stays in prison where she belongs." He paused. "And you figure out what kind of life you want to build." "Without her." "Without her," Luca confirmed. Evelyn looked out the window at Chicago passing by, the city that had been her prison and was now becoming something else, something that felt almost like freedom. "I want to help," she said suddenly. Luca looked at her. "Help how?" "The safe house," Evelyn said. "Maria's program. I want to work there. Help other women escape the way you helped me." "Evelyn, I know I'm not qualified," she interrupted. "I know I'm still figuring out my own trauma. But maybe that's exactly why I should do this, because I understand what they're going through." Luca was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Maria would be lucky to have you." Something warm bloomed in Evelyn's chest. Purpose, maybe. Or just the beginning of knowing who she wanted to be. 3 weeks later, the trial began. The courtroom was packed. Media, victims, witnesses, people who'd been hurt by Celeste Vale and finally had the chance to be heard. Evelyn testified on day 2. She sat in the witness box and told her story. Every bruise, every threat, every moment of terror. She described the life insurance policy, the kidnapping, the gun pointed at her chest. Celeste's lawyers tried to break her, suggested she was lying, claimed she was mentally unstable, implied she was being coached by Luca. Evelyn didn't break. She just told the truth. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Then the other witnesses testified. Rebecca Chen, 3 former employees, women who'd been hurt by Celeste's cruelty and paid to stay quiet. The evidence piled up. Bank records, medical files, emails, phone recordings. By day 5, Celeste's defense was crumbling. On day 7, the jury deliberated for 3 hours. They came back with a verdict, guilty on all counts. The courtroom erupted. Celeste sat perfectly still, her face blank, as the judge read the sentence. 25 years to life, no possibility of parole. As they led her away in handcuffs, Celeste looked at Evelyn one last time. There was no anger, no rage, just empty resignation. She'd lost. And for the first time in her life, Evelyn had won. But that night, Evelyn stood on Luca's terrace watching the city lights. Behind her, the door opened. Luca stepped out with 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one. "How do you feel?" he asked. Evelyn considered the question. Empty, relieved, terrified. She took a sip. Free. Free is good. They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Then Evelyn said, "I start at the safe house next week." "Maria told me," Luca replied. "She's excited. So am I." Evelyn paused. "Thank you for everything." "You don't need to keep thanking me." "Yes, I do," Evelyn said. "Because you saved my life multiple times, and I don't think I ever properly acknowledged that." Luca turned to face her. "You survived, Evelyn. I just gave you the tools. You did the work." Evelyn met his eyes. "We did the work. Together." Something shifted in the air between them. Acknowledgement of everything they'd been through, everything they'd survived, everything they'd become to each other. "What happens now?" Evelyn asked quietly. Luca's smile was small, genuine. "Now you build the life you want, whatever that looks like." "And you?" "I'll be here," Luca said. "If you want me to be." Evelyn's heart was pounding. She set down her glass, took a breath, and asked the question she'd been too afraid to voice. "What if what I want includes you?" Luca's expression was complicated, surprise mixed with something that looked almost like hope. "Then we figure it out," he said simply. "Together." Evelyn stepped closer, close enough to see the scars on his knuckles, the tattoos disappearing beneath his sleeves, the man who'd looked at her bruises and seen a crime instead of a weakness. "I'm not easy to love," she warned. "Good," Luca replied. "Neither am I." He kissed her. It was gentle, careful. Nothing like the violence and chaos that had brought them together. It was a beginning, and for the first time in her life, Evelyn believed in beginnings. But across town, in a maximum security prison, Celeste Vale sat in her cell making phone calls. She had lost the battle, but the war wasn't over. And if she was going down, she was taking everyone with her. The call came at 3 a.m. Evelyn woke to her phone vibrating against the nightstand, the screen casting pale blue light across unfamiliar sheets. She'd been staying in Luca's penthouse for 6 weeks now, officially in the guest suite, though she'd fallen asleep on his couch more nights than not, talking until exhaustion pulled them both under. She grabbed the phone without checking the caller ID. "Hello?" Breathing on the other end, ragged and deliberate. Then her mother's voice, distorted through prison phone static. "I hope you're happy." Evelyn sat up, heart pounding. "How did you get this number?" "I'm still Celeste Vale," her mother replied. "Even in here, I have reach." A pause filled with something dark. "You took everything from me, my reputation, my freedom, my life." "You did that to yourself." Celeste laughed, bitter and hollow. "You sound just like him. That's what happens when you let monsters raise you. You become one." Evelyn's hands clenched around the phone. "What do you want?" "I want you to know that this isn't over," Celeste said. Each word was carved from ice. "I have friends, people who owe me favors, and they're very interested in meeting the daughter who destroyed me." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise," Celeste replied. "You think you won because I'm in prison? You won a battle, Evelyn, but the war never ends, not for people like us." "I'm nothing like you." "Keep telling yourself that," Celeste said. "But every time you look in the mirror, you'll see my eyes looking back. Every time you get angry, You'll feel my hands clenching into fists. You can't escape your blood. Evelyn's throat closed. I'm hanging up. There's a package coming for you, Celeste interrupted. Addressed to Luca's penthouse. I'd be careful opening it if I were you. You never know what people send to traitors. The line went dead. Evelyn sat in the darkness, phone trembling in her hand. She should wake Luca. Should tell him about the threat. Should let him handle it the way he handled everything, with strategy and violence and absolute control. Instead, she just sat there, her mother's words echoing in her skull. You can't escape your blood. Morning came cold and gray. Evelyn found Luca in his study already dressed, reviewing security footage on his laptop. He looked up when she entered, immediately registering something wrong in her expression. What happened? She told him about the call, about the package, about the threat that felt both real and performative, her mother's final attempt to maintain control even from behind bars. Luca's expression went dangerous. She called you directly? 3 a.m. From the prison phone system? Evelyn nodded. Luca pulled out his own phone, made a call. I need the phone records from Cook County Correctional, inmate Celeste Vale, last 24 hours. Pause. I don't care about protocol. Get them. He hung up and looked at Evelyn. She's not supposed to have access to outside numbers without approval. Someone's helping her. Does it matter? Evelyn asked. She's locked up. Whatever she's planning, she can't actually do anything. She can coordinate, Luca said. Pay people. Make arrangements. Your mother is smart, and she's desperate. That combination is dangerous even from inside a cell. A knock on the study door interrupted them. Sophia entered holding a small package wrapped in brown paper. This just arrived, addressed to Miss Vale. Evelyn's blood ran cold. Luca was on his feet immediately. Don't touch it. He pulled out his phone again. Anton, I need a bomb tech to the penthouse. Now. He looked at Sophia. Where's building security? Lobby, Sophia replied. Should I evacuate? No, Luca said. Not yet. Just keep everyone away from this floor. Sophia left quickly. Luca and Evelyn stared at the package sitting innocently on the desk. It was small, shoebox-sized, with neat handwriting on the label. Could be nothing, Evelyn said quietly. Could be everything, Luca replied. They waited in tense silence for 20 minutes before Anton arrived with a man in tactical gear carrying detection equipment. The tech scanned the package with devices Evelyn didn't recognize. After several minutes, he looked up. No explosives, he confirmed. No biological agents. It's safe to open. Luca nodded. Do it. The tech carefully cut the tape and lifted the lid. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note. Luca read the note first, his expression darkening with each word. Then he handed it to Evelyn. Her mother's handwriting was elegant and precise. Since you're so fond of evidence, here's some you might find interesting. Everything Luca hasn't told you, every crime he's committed, every person he's hurt. Watch it with him. See if he can look you in the eye while his sins play out in high definition. Then decide who the real monster is. Mother. Evelyn's hands were shaking. What's on the drive? I don't know, Luca admitted. But whatever it is, your mother thinks it'll turn you against me. Will it? Luca met her eyes. That depends on what you can live with. They watched the videos in Luca's study with the door locked and the blinds drawn. The USB drive contained 23 files, security footage from various locations, recordings from phones and hidden cameras, each one time-stamped and labeled. The first video showed Luca in a warehouse similar to the one Evelyn had been held in. He was younger, maybe late 20s, standing over a man tied to a chair. The man was begging. Luca was methodical, clinical. When the violence started, Evelyn looked away. Keep watching, Luca said quietly. She forced herself to look back. The video ended with the man unconscious but alive. Luca's people untied him, loaded him into a van. The label on the file read, Vincent Caruso, embezzlement, recovered funds. He stole $2 million from a pension fund, Luca said, left 300 families with nothing. I found him, got the money back. Made sure he understood what happens to people who steal from the vulnerable. Did you kill him? No, Luca replied. I broke 6 of his fingers and put him on a bus to Nevada. He's never coming back. They watched the next video, then the next, each one worse than the last. Beatings, interrogations, threats delivered in Luca's calm, terrifying voice. But each file also had context, labels explaining who the victims were, what they'd done, why Luca had gotten involved. A human trafficker who'd enslaved 17 women, a loan shark targeting cancer patients, a corrupt cop selling evidence to gang members, people who hurt the powerless and hid behind systems designed to protect them. "Your mother thinks this will scare you," Luca said after the 10th video. "She thinks seeing what I'm capable of will make you run." "Does it scare you?" Evelyn asked. "Watching yourself do these things?" Luca was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes. Late at night when I can't sleep, I wonder if I've crossed too many lines to ever come back." He looked at her. "But then I remember why I crossed them, and I make peace with being the villain in someone else's story." They finished watching the videos in silence. The last file was different. Recent footage, only 3 months old. Luca meeting with federal prosecutors, handing over documents, testifying about corruption in the Chicago PD. "You're cooperating with the feds?" Evelyn asked. "Selectively," Luca confirmed. "I give them corrupt officials. They look the other way on my operation as long as I keep it clean. No drugs, no trafficking, no civilians." He paused. "It's not redemption, but it's pragmatism." Evelyn closed the laptop. Her hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped somewhere around video 50. "Your mother was right about one thing," Luca said. "I'm not a good man. I've hurt people, killed people, built an empire on violence and fear." He stood, walked to the window. "If you want to leave, I understand. I'll make sure you're set up somewhere safe. Give you money, resources, whatever you need." "Is that what you want?" Evelyn asked. "No," Luca admitted. "But what I want doesn't matter if you can't live with what I am." Evelyn thought about the videos, the violence, the calculated brutality. Then she thought about Maria's safe house, the women Luca protected, the resources he provided, the empire built on fear that somehow still made room for mercy. She thought about her mother, polished and elegant and rotting from the inside. And she thought about Luca, violent and dangerous and honest about every ugly part of himself. "I'm not leaving," she said. Luca turned. "Evelyn, I'm not leaving," she repeated. "Because you're right. You're not a good man, but you're not pretending to be. And after spending 11 years with someone who wore goodness like a costume while beating me behind closed doors, I'll take honest violence over false virtue any day." Something complicated moved across Luca's face. Relief mixed with something that might have been hope. "Your mother will keep trying," he said. "She'll send more packages, make more threats, try to destroy what we're building." "Let her try," Evelyn replied. "I'm done being afraid of her." The second attack came a week later. Evelyn was leaving Maria's safe house after her first official day as a volunteer when a car jumped the curb and came straight at her. She dove sideways, hit the pavement hard, felt the wind from the vehicle as it missed her by inches. The car sped away before she could see the license plate. Dimitri was there in seconds. He'd been shadowing her since Celeste's phone call, gun drawn, scanning for threats. "You hurt?" he demanded. Evelyn's palms were scraped raw and her hip throbbed, but nothing was broken. "I'm fine." "That was deliberate," Dimitri said. He helped her up, already on his phone. "Luca needs to know." By the time they got back to the penthouse, Luca had pulled security footage from 3 different cameras. The car was stolen. The driver wore a mask. But the trajectory was unmistakable. They'd been aiming to kill. "Your mother's making good on her threat," Luca said. His voice was ice. "She's putting hits out from inside prison." "Can we prove it?" Marcus asked. He'd arrived within an hour of the attempt, already pulling together legal options. "Not yet," Luca admitted. "But she's communicating with someone. Multiple someones. We need to find out who." "I can get the prison phone records," Marcus said. "See who she's been calling." "Do it," Luca replied. Then he looked at Evelyn. "You're not leaving this building without a full security detail. I don't care where you're going or how safe you think it is." "I'm not hiding." "I'm not asking you to hide," Luca interrupted. "I'm asking you to stay alive long enough for us to figure out who's trying to kill you." Evelyn wanted to argue, wanted to prove she wasn't afraid, but the scrape on her palms was still bleeding and her hands were shaking again. "Okay," she said quietly. Marcus delivered the phone records 2 days later. Celeste had been calling the same number repeatedly. A burner phone registered to a shell corporation that didn't exist. But Marcus had connections, and those connections led to a name. Patricia Ross, Celeste's lawyer. She's been using her attorney to coordinate, Marcus explained. Attorney-client privilege means those calls can't be monitored. She's been passing messages through Patricia to people on the outside. Can we prove Patricia's complicit? Luca asked. Working on it, Marcus said. But if we can show she's facilitating criminal activity, she loses her license and faces charges. I want more than charges, Luca said. I want her flipped, testifying against Celeste, giving us everyone she's been coordinating with. Marcus nodded. I'll make it happen. 3 days later, Patricia Ross walked into Marcus's office wearing the expression of someone who'd been backed into a corner. My client wants immunity, Patricia said without preamble. Your client can want whatever she likes, Marcus replied. What she gets depends on what she gives us. Patricia slid a folder across the desk. Names, dates, transactions, everyone Celeste has been working with from inside, including the person who tried to run down Evelyn Vale. Luca opened the folder. Read. His expression went dark. This is a Cook County Sheriff's deputy, he said. Patricia nodded. Celeste paid him $50,000 to arrange the hit. He hired a local gang member to steal the car and do the job. Where are they now? The deputy's still working, Patricia said. The gang member got arrested on unrelated charges 2 days ago. He's in county waiting for arraignment. Luca looked at Marcus. We need both of them in custody before they disappear. Marcus was already on his phone. Within 6 hours, the deputy was arrested at his home. The gang member cut a deal in exchange for testimony, and Patricia Ross officially became a cooperating witness against Celeste Vale. The conspiracy was unraveling, but Celeste wasn't done fighting. The final confrontation happened in a maximum security prison visiting room. Celeste sat across from Evelyn with a pane of bulletproof glass between them and a phone connecting their voices. She looked worse than at the trial, thinner, grayer, the polished veneer completely gone. I didn't think you'd come, Celeste said. I almost didn't, Evelyn replied. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Celeste said, You look different. I am different. Stronger, Celeste observed. Colder. More like him. More like myself, yay? Evelyn corrected. Celeste smiled sadly. You think you've won. Think putting me in here and falling into bed with a mobster makes you free. I don't think I've won, Evelyn said. I think I survived. There's a difference. Is there? Celeste leaned forward. You're still defined by me, still carrying my trauma, still making choices based on what I did to you. For now, Evelyn admitted. But eventually, you'll just be a scar, something that shaped me but doesn't control me. Celeste's expression cracked. I'm your mother. You're a woman who gave birth to me, Evelyn replied. That's biology, not love. I did love you, Celeste said desperately. In my own way. Your way was violent, Evelyn interrupted. Your way left bruises and broken bones and a daughter who believed she deserved to be hurt. She paused. That's not love. That's ownership. And I'm done being owned by you. Celeste's hands clenched on her side of the glass. You came here to gloat. I came here to say goodbye, Evelyn said, to the version of myself that still needed your approval. To the girl who thought if she was just good enough, you'd stop hitting her. She stood. That girl is dead, and I'm not mourning her. Evelyn, your lawyer flipped, Evelyn continued. She gave us everyone you've been working with, the deputy, the gang member, all of it. They're testifying against you, adding more charges. You're never getting out. Celeste's face went blank, empty. So this is it, she said quietly. You're walking away. I already walked away, Evelyn replied. I just came back to tell you in person. She hung up the phone and turned toward the door. Behind the glass, Celeste was screaming, muffled and desperate and too late. Evelyn didn't look back. 6 months passed like a held breath finally released. The additional charges against Celeste stuck. The conspiracy case added another 15 years to her sentence. She would die in prison. Old and forgotten and alone. Patricia Ross testified, lost her law license, and disappeared into witness protection. The deputy and the gang member both took plea deals that put them away for a decade each. and Evelyn slowly learned what it meant to build a life that wasn't defined by survival. She worked at Maria's safe house 3 days a week, started taking online classes in social work, moved into her own apartment, small and bright and full of furniture she'd chosen herself. Luca visited often. Sometimes they talked about cases. Sometimes they just sat in comfortable silence, reading or watching the city lights. They were careful with each other, gentle, both carrying too much damage to rush into anything that might break what they were building. But slowly, carefully, they became something real. 1 year after the trial, Haven House opened its doors. The former Vale estate had been seized by the court and sold at auction. Luca had bought it through a shell corporation and donated it to a nonprofit Maria helped establish. The mansion that had been Evelyn's prison was now a sanctuary. Therapy centers where the ballroom once stood, emergency housing in the guest suites, legal aid offices in Celeste's old study. The walls that had trapped silence now protected healing. Evelyn stood in the courtyard on opening day, watching volunteers carry supplies inside while survivors explored the gardens. Maria appeared beside her, carrying 2 cups of coffee. "You did this," Maria said. "Luca did this," Evelyn corrected. "You both did this," Maria replied. "Together." Inside the main hall, a plaque had been mounted near the entrance. Haven House, in memory of those who didn't escape. In honor of those who did. Evelyn's throat tightened. She'd written that inscription herself, had it engraved, made it permanent. "Your mother would hate this," Maria observed. "I know," Evelyn said. "That's part of why I love it." They stood together watching the house fill with people, broken people, scared people. People who needed safety and time and proof that escape was possible. People like Evelyn had been. People like she'd never be again. No, that evening, Luca found her on the terrace of her apartment. He'd been at Haven House all day coordinating security and making sure everything ran smoothly. Now he looked tired but satisfied, the sharp edges of violence temporarily softened. "Maria says you're thinking about going back to school," he said. "Full-time social work degree." "I am," Evelyn confirmed. "If I'm going to do this work, I want to do it right." "You're already doing it right." "I want to do it better," Evelyn clarified. She turned to face him. "What about you? What happens to Luca Moretti now that his war against Celeste Vale is over?" Luca was quiet for a moment. "I've been thinking about that," he admitted. "My operation is stable. My people are loyal. The federal cooperation keeps the heat off." He paused. "For the first time in a decade, I'm not fighting anyone." "Is that strange?" "Terrifying," Luca said. "I've spent my entire adult life at war. I don't know who I am without an enemy." "Then figure it out," Evelyn said. "The same way I'm figuring out who I am without fear." Luca smiled, small and genuine. "Is that what we're doing? Figuring ourselves out?" "Together," Evelyn added. "If you want." "I want," Luca confirmed. He kissed her, slow and careful and full of all the things they didn't know how to say. When they pulled apart, Evelyn rested her forehead against his. "I'm not easy to love," she said quietly. "You told me that already," Luca replied, "and I told you I'm not either." "Think we can figure it out anyway?" "I think," Luca said. "We've survived worse." Aham. 2 years later, Evelyn graduated with her social work degree. Luca was in the audience. So was Sophia, Marcus, Dimitri, Anton, Maria and half the staff from Haven House, a family built from wreckage and choice. After the ceremony, they all went to dinner at a restaurant Luca owned. The conversation was loud and warm and full of the kind of joy that came from people who'd fought for their right to happiness. At some point during the meal, Evelyn's phone buzzed. A notification from the prison system. Inmate Celeste Vale had been transferred to the medical wing. Stage 4 cancer. Months to live. Evelyn stared at the message for a long moment. Then she deleted it and put her phone away. "Everything okay?" Luca asked quietly. "Yeah," Evelyn said. "Everything's fine." And she meant it. Celeste Vale died 4 months later in a prison hospital bed with no one holding her hand. The obituary was small, factual. It listed her crimes and her conviction, but nothing about who she'd been before she became a monster. There was no funeral, no memorial, no one to mourn her. Evelyn didn't attend any services because there weren't any. Instead, she spent that day at Haven House working with a new arrival, a woman named Sarah who'd escaped her husband 3 days ago and still flinched at sudden movements. It gets easier, Evelyn told her. Not fast, not smooth, but eventually you stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. When? Sarah asked. When does it get easier? Evelyn thought about her mother dying alone, about the nightmares that still came sometimes, about the scars that would never fully fade. When you stop giving them power, she said, when you decide that surviving isn't enough, that you deserve more than just staying alive. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. What if I don't know how? Then you learn, Evelyn said, one day at a time, with people who actually give a damn whether you make it. She stayed with Sarah until the woman fell asleep in a safe bed. Then she walked out into the courtyard where Luca was waiting. Your mother's lawyer called, he said carefully. She left you something. Evelyn's stomach tightened. What? A letter, Luca said, handwritten, sealed, delivered through her estate attorney. I don't want it. I know, Luca replied, but it's yours if you change your mind. Evelyn thought about it for a moment, then shook her head. No. Whatever she wanted to say, she had years to say it. I'm done listening. What do you want me to do with it? Burn it, Evelyn said. I don't need her final words. I've already written my own ending. Luca nodded, pulled out his lighter and a sealed envelope, set it on fire without opening it. They watched it burn together until there was nothing left but ash. 5 years after Celeste Vale's death, Haven House expanded. A second location opened on the south side, then a third in the suburbs, each one funded by donations and Luca's quiet financial support. Evelyn ran the therapy programs, trained new counselors, spoke at conferences about trauma and survival and the long road to healing. She and Luca had bought a house together, modest by his standards, perfect by hers. They still kept separate spaces sometimes, still had bad days when the past felt too close, but they'd built something real, something that didn't require perfection or pretending, just honesty and patience and the willingness to keep choosing each other. On the anniversary of Haven House's opening, Evelyn stood in front of a crowd of donors and survivors and spoke about what the house meant. This place exists because people fought back, she said, because they refused to accept that cruelty was normal or that suffering was deserved. She paused. My mother built an empire on lies and violence. She hurt people, destroyed lives, and when she fell, everyone said it was tragic. The room was silent. But it wasn't tragic, Evelyn continued. It was justice. And from the ashes of her empire, we built something better, something that protects instead of destroys, that heals instead of harms. She looked at Luca, standing near the back with his arms crossed and pride in his eyes. We built Haven House to prove that monsters don't win forever, Evelyn said, and that the people they tried to break can become the strongest advocates for change. The crowd applauded. After the event, Evelyn found Luca on the terrace overlooking the gardens. Good speech, he said. Good cause, she replied. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over Chicago. Do you ever think about her? Luca asked. Your mother? Sometimes, Evelyn admitted. When I look in the mirror and see her eyes, when I get angry and feel her rage, when someone's cruel and I recognize her tactics. She paused. But then I remember that I chose differently. And that makes all the difference. You think she ever regretted it? Luca asked. What she did to you? Evelyn considered this. I think she regretted getting caught. But the abuse itself? No, she thought she was entitled to it, that I belonged to her and she could do whatever she wanted. She was wrong. I know, Evelyn said. Took me a long time to believe it, but I know now. Luca pulled her close. She fit against him like they'd been designed to stand this way, two damaged people holding each other up. What do you think happens next? Evelyn asked. For us? Whatever we want, Luca replied. That's the point of freedom. Evelyn smiled. Then I want this, right here, this moment. You've got it, Luca said, for as long as you want it. And standing there in the house that used to be a prison, surrounded by people who'd survived the unsurvivable, Evelyn finally understood what her grandmother must have known when she left that inheritance. Money couldn't buy healing, but it could buy time and safety and the space to become whoever you were meant to be. The rest was up to you, son. 10 years after the trial that sent Celeste Vale to prison, Evelyn stood in front of a graduating class of social workers and delivered the keynote speech. She was 33 now, confident, grounded. The trembling girl who'd been shoved across Luca's study was a memory, not identity. Trauma doesn't define you, she told the graduates, but it does shape you. The question is whether you let it shape you into something broken or something resilient. She talked about Haven House, about the hundreds of lives touched and transformed, about the power of choosing to fight back instead of just surviving. After the ceremony, a young woman approached her. "I just wanted to say thank you," the woman said. "I grew up in a situation like yours, and seeing what you've built, it gave me hope that I could build something too." Evelyn's chest tightened with emotion she'd learned to allow instead of suppress. "You already are building," she said, "just by being here, by choosing education over resignation." She paused. "What's your name?" "Claire." "Claire, the world is full of people who will try to convince you that you're defined by what was done to you," Evelyn said. "Don't believe them. You're defined by what you do next." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "What if I don't know what to do next?" "Then you start small," Evelyn replied. "One safe choice, then another, then another. Eventually those choices become a life." Claire nodded, thanked her again, and walked away. Luca appeared at Evelyn's elbow. "You're good at this." "At what?" "Giving people hope without lying to them," Luca said. "It's a rare skill." Evelyn leaned against him. "I learned from the best." "I'm not hopeful," Luca said. "I'm pragmatic." "You're both," Evelyn corrected. "You just hide the hope under layers of violence and cynicism." Luca smiled. "Fair." They walked out of the auditorium together, hands linked, comfortable in the silence that came from years of understanding each other. "I've been thinking," Luca said after a while. "Dangerous." "I want to step back," he continued, "from the operation. Let my captains run it while I focus on legitimate businesses." Evelyn stopped walking. "Are you serious?" "I'm getting old," Luca said, "and tired. And I've spent enough years looking over my shoulder." He met her eyes. "I want to build something that won't put you at risk, something I can be proud of." "You're already building that," Evelyn said. "Haven House, the other safe houses, the legal aid programs. I want to build it without the criminal empire underneath," Luca interrupted. "I want to be someone you don't have to make excuses for." Evelyn's throat tightened. "I've never made excuses for you." "You've accepted me despite what I am," Luca said. "I want to become someone you don't have to accept, someone you're just proud of." Evelyn pulled him close, pressed her forehead against his chest. "I'm already proud of you, you idiot. Even knowing what I've done?" "Because I know what you've done," Evelyn said. "You looked at a broken girl and saw someone worth saving. You gave her tools and space and protection without asking for anything in return. And when she finally stood up, you stood beside her instead of trying to control her." She pulled back to look at him. "That's who you are. Not the violence, not the empire. The person who chooses mercy when it matters." Luca's expression was complicated, vulnerable in a way she rarely saw. "I love you," he said quietly. It was the first time either of them had said it out loud. Evelyn's breath caught. "I love you too." They stood there in the parking lot of a university neither of them had attended, holding each other like they were the only solid things in a shifting world. "What happens now?" Evelyn asked. "Now," Luca said, "we go home, make dinner, argue about what to watch, fall asleep on the couch like normal people." "We're not normal people." "Then we fake it," Luca replied, "until it becomes real." Evelyn smiled. "I can live with that." They drove home through Chicago streets that no longer felt dangerous, past the building where Celeste had lived and died alone, past the courthouse where justice had finally caught up with cruelty. At home, they made pasta and argued about movies and fell asleep tangled together on the couch. It was ordinary, mundane, perfect, and for the first time in her life, Evelyn understood that this was what winning looked like. Not revenge, not vindication, not even justice, just peace, and the freedom to choose what came next. The trembling girl in the oversized sweater was gone. In her place stood a woman who'd survived, fought back, and built a life worth living. A woman who'd turned a mansion of horrors into a sanctuary of hope. A woman who'd learned that monsters don't stay monsters forever, and that survival is just the beginning. The end. This is a complete work of fiction created for entertainment purposes. All characters, locations, events, and organizations are entirely fictional and bear no relation to any real persons, living or dead, or actual events.